Well, we're live. Hello, chat room. Hello, everyone. I am a little bit behind. As you can see, I'm kind of getting things started. I don't even have lights on behind me. It's so dark. There it is. Well, this is our pre-show, by the way, for the SY0-601 Security Plus Study Group. We've got all new questions for you to answer in this first hour. And then the second hour, I will open up the phone lines. Well, I'll open up the chat room. We probably won't do phone lines today, but I'll open up the chat room. Let's get this background lit so you can actually see it. There we go. That's better. Now it's a normal set. There is stuff back there. Who knew? All right, we need to disable some things on this side. I need to fix a keyboard issue over here. There's always something. You can tell when I'm like 3 minutes behind. Hey, chat room. Good to see you. Gavin's taking your SY0-601 on Friday. So this is the big push to the end, is it? This is it. We're going to see how well you do with the questions today. This will be a good test. Hopefully you've gone through those exam objectives. Hello, downtown Houston. Good to have you here. Oh, let's see if I can find the keyboard piece. Let's just type it in, shall we? There we go. No device is found. Great. Fantastic. Fantastic. Let's reset our keyboard, shall we? We can make this work. That's what you do. You turn it all off and back on again. I don't know that that's really going to help in this particular case, but keyboard's working. Logitech says the keyboard's not working. So there you go. I'm glad we were able to do that. So now we'll set the colors and the lighting manually on our display because our function keys aren't working. There's always something when you're setting up for a live stream. There's always a thing. There's always something. Okay, brightness. Scale that down a bit. There we go. And on this side as well, scale it down a bit. That's nice. Okay, all done. I think we're in good shape. I've already done the podcast intro. I've got recordings going down here. You can see my Cylons down there. They're running. Got a lot going on. Hey, Nashville and other folks in the chat and Cleveland. And there's a lot. Okay. We don't need this. This can go over here. We need this. Oh, headphones would be good. I'm just assuming you can hear me. I can't hear what you hear. So we're about to fix that with this jumble of wires, which I'm glad you can't see, but I've just got a jumble of things here. It's a jumble of wires to do this. Look at this in the chat room. We've already got a lot going on here. We have a $20 super chat from Chessman. Thank you so much for the super chat. Chessman says, I passed A+ and Network Plus thanks to you. Looking to get Security Plus down in the 11th. You're going to go 3 for 3. I can feel it. That's great. Thank you so much for your super chat. Congratulations on your A+ and Network Plus. I love that Security Plus is going to get taken care of on the 11th. You got a plan. You have a plan and you are executing on the plan. Hello, Castroville, Texas. Hello, Vancouver, British Columbia. Hello, Ontario. Michigan is here, heading to Greensboro, North Carolina. Got a lot to do today. I need to find my presentations. Let's check cameras. Let's do that. See what happens when you just show up late. Well, I didn't show up late, but you know what I'm saying. We need a presentation. Where is it? If you had a presentation, where would it be? Oh, you know what? I didn't load it. Do you need to load the presentation to be able to see the presentation? Yes, you do. It's really very important. There we go. Now we're fine there. This is normally what happens before you get here. I wish it was that case. Hello, Ontario, Milton specifically. There's Wichita, Kansas. There's Arizona and D.C. and Arkansas and South Africa. Maryland, Poland. Not Maryland, Poland, but Maryland and Poland. And Tennessee. There's Tyndall Air Force Base. Got some Floridas checking in. Hello, Floridians. Good to have you here. SoCal. That would be Southern California for those of you listening in. We've got Vienna, where they make the sausages. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's actually the case. Hey, DC and Dominican Republic and Ireland and New York and Oklahoma and Ghana. There's a lot of people checking in. Security Plus is coming up in 3 minutes. Top of the hour. Let's check cameras. We are recording. Okay. I think we're in pretty good shape here. Oh, boy. There's a lot happening. It's just constant recording right now. We're working on updating all of our A+ videos. So just in the past week, I've probably uploaded 10 or 15 videos. It's been ridiculous. I recorded or shot 6 videos yesterday. We'll not be shooting videos today because we're doing this, but I'll be shooting more videos tomorrow. Almost done with the Core 1. This is pretty much taken care of. So that's really great. We'll have to see. Got 2 minutes to go. 2 minutes to go until we get started on Security Plus. Am I ready for Security Plus? I feel like I've missed something. Like there's something that has gone awry. First, I don't need this in the way. This is my this is what I use when I'm editing. This is the Shuttle Pro V2. That makes my editing go so much faster. But it also has keys that do other things on my operating system when I'm not editing. And if I hit it by mistake, everything could just stop. We don't want that to happen. So we'll put that over here. Put it over there, or it won't hurt anybody. Padawan Gunslinger passed Security Plus and A+. I wouldn't say because of my videos, but we were more than happy to help. So that's good. Please give proper number to your new CompTIA A+ training, the 220, 1101, and 1102. I will do that. I will make sure the proper number is on it, because there's actually 2 A+s right now. There's 4 separate A+ exams you could be taking. There is the 1101, there's a 1001 and 1002, and 1101 and 1102. So all of them are legit right now. We'll figure it out. Another super chat, Ebony in the chat room. Thank you for the $19.99 super chat. Ebony says, hey, Professor Messer passed my Security Plus in April. Congratulations. Thanks so much for this free content. Helped me a lot. And you're helping me a lot. Thank you for the $19.99 super chat. And now also a $10 super chat. It is from Columbus, Ohio. Passed Security Plus last week after 3 weeks of study. I solely depended on your course notes, practice exams, and videos. That's why we make them, so that you can do that. The continues on. I appreciate you. Keep up the good work. Thanks. Alina 9. Nope, can't do it. Just that's how we go. How can I contact you to advise? Well, we have questions you can ask in the second hour. So stick around after the primary show, the main show, and we'll do something in the second hour. You can ask whatever question you would like. Will I continue with the CompTIA infrastructure or security pathways? Who knows? Who knows? We'll know later this year. Everyone will find out. You'll effectively find out when I do. Top of the hour, everybody. Before we get started, you guys are crazy. Roby in the chat room with a $20 super chat. Not even a message. You're welcome to put one into the chat, though. Thank you so much for all of these super chats. Everyone who is kind of keeping this craziness going. Cannot thank you enough. It is not only gratifying to see that people are able to use these training materials, but it's nice that there are others that would like to keep this going for other people down the road, which is really what you're doing. You're trying to keep all of this process going, and I appreciate it. Top of the hour, let's do a live stream, everybody. This is great. I love it when everything starts crashing before I even get started. It's a live stream, everybody. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't. Let's find out. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the May 2022 Professor Messer SY0-601 Security Plus Study Group. This is our monthly study group where I ask you questions that come directly from the CompTIA exam objectives, and you, if you are here live and online, can answer them along with everyone else who is here live and online. I'll tell you how to do that in just a moment. We like to do one of these every month. This is our May 2022 version. How do you like that? To be able to have that. This is very, very involved. this process of setting up the live stream, getting the questions going. So it's so great whenever we finally get this online and ready to go. I'm very excited to share these next questions with you. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you are here live, we would love for you to be able to follow along with us. The way that you would do that, if you are here live, go to your browser, pop open a new browser window, and go to this link, professormesser.com/QA. That is the link that will open up a question that's already waiting for you. So you'll know immediately if there's something there to look at. And we have an app, if you, of course, would like to use an app on your mobile device. It's called the Socrative Student app because the Q&A we use is from a service called Socrative. When you open that up, it will ask you for a room name. The room name is Professor Messer, all one word, PROFESSORMESSER. Make sure you spell it right or you won't be in a room. So either way, if you do either one of those things, there will be a question waiting for you. And that question says, which of the following would be the best example of an RTOS? Would it be a USB data blocker, RAID, steganography, fog computing, or automobile? Which of the following would be the best example of an RTOS? USB data blocker, RAID, steganography, fog computing, or automobile. Now, our rules in the live stream are to not mention anything about the answer in the chat room. Please no answering in the chat room either. Instead, you want to follow the link that's on your screen, professormesser.com/QA, to lock in your answer, and we will be coming back to that question in just a moment. Thanks for being here, everyone. We've got a lot to go through today. We'll talk about a lot of different things in the after show. There's just constant motion happening on this side of the microphone. We're so pleased that we could do this live stream for you today. When we're not here doing a live stream, then of course we're available on the net at professormesser.com/YouTube. You're welcome to subscribe and see the videos that we have there. I was mentioning in the pre-show, we probably put out 15 new videos in the last week because we're updating all of our A+ courses right now. So if you have someone who is working on A+, now's a good time to go learn the A+ content. We have a weekly pop quiz question for Security Plus that's available on professormesser.com/Twitter and professormesser.com/Instagram. It's a great place to go. If you are studying for Security Plus right now, there is a version of the Security Plus called the SY0-601. That's our current version of Security Plus. That was released on November the 12th of 2020. We estimate the retirement for this exam to be on May of 2024. To be able to earn your Security Plus, you only have to take a single exam. That's good. The exam is 90 minutes long, and you could get a maximum of 90 questions on the exam. You might get fewer than 90 questions, but 90 is where it tops off. You won't get more than that. The passing score on the exam is on a scale from 100 to 900. Already kind of weird, I realize. The passing score is 750. So somewhere in there is an interesting grading system. CompTIA doesn't tell us how they grade anything. So really the best I can offer you from a grading perspective is not to worry about the grading. The grading is going to work itself out in the end. There's really nothing we can do to help with the grading. So I would absolutely tell you don't worry about it. Just know that the final score that comes up needs to be a 750 or more. On the exam, you'll get a combination of performance-based questions and multiple choice-based questions, and we'll do some of both of those today. You'll learn a little bit more about that as we go along. I want to thank also Grand Admiral Shavy in the chat room with a $5 super chat. Says, I want to say thanks for materials past 3 weeks ago. Already looking into Network Plus, which is a great place to roll right in to the Network Plus part. And folks are in the chat room already talking about Uncle Phil's fudge. It's already happening. So that's another one. You'll have to go back to a previous study group. Did we do it in February to learn more about Uncle Phil's fudge and just how delicious it is? Because Chris in the chat room says it's top notch at unclephilsfudge.com. There you go. Uncle Phil, by the way, is Uncle Phil Messer, my brother. So that's why I talk a little bit about fudge in the live stream, because that's his business. He does fudge. So go check him out. Also, we'll be in the chat room with the $21 blackjack super chat. Thank you. Thanks, Will. Will says, just got my Security Plus last week. Because of my content? Well, because of your studying. I'm glad we could help. Will says, keep up the good work, and we're sure going to try if we can do that. Also want to tell you that if you're somebody who's watching my live stream, you're watching my free videos on the YouTube, you're taking some of the free materials, we also have a lot of information that you could use to continue your studies. We have course notes. We have practice exams. There's a lot out there. One of the things you can do is to go to ProfessorMesser.com/601SB. Have a look at my Success Bundle where you can download all of these videos. You can have them in MP3 audio format. You get a copy of my course notes. You get a copy of my practice exams. It's everything. You can either get digital versions or physical versions. I'll ship it to you on a USB drive. Look at all this stuff. So it's all there online. Have a look at it. We're just so pleased we can bring some of these things to you, and it's a great way to help support what we're doing as well. ProfessorMesser.com/601SB. Also let you know there's some free questions out on the website at ProfessorMesser.com/take10. I have A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus questions out there. They are free to take. They are archives effectively of our previous study groups. So it's a great way to keep up with all the latest Q&A, test yourself, see if you're ready to take that exam. Also want to let you know that this live stream, the video version of it, will be available immediately afterwards on YouTube. It's just automatically churned around, takes a couple minutes, and then you can watch it on YouTube. Nothing I have to do on my side. It's just automatic. If you would like an audio-only replay version, you can do that. Go to ProfessorMesser.com/podcast and subscribe with your favorite podcast listening program, or you can listen from that page for my A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus study groups. I've also got a list in the YouTube video description of timestamps. How did those get there? Well, they got there because my marketing manager, Lori, who's watching this replay, hi, Lori, she's going through this entire YouTube replay, probably at 2x speed if she's smart, and figuring out where all the timestamps are, and then she's putting it into the YouTube video description. So you can jump to anything in any of these study groups, find the question, find the answer, find the person asking other questions. It's all in there. There's a full write-up. It's all in the YouTube video description. It's usually there about a day after we finish the study group. Thank you, Lori. And the chat room, if you want to thank Lori for it too, she watches the live chat as it's going by. So you're welcome to ask anything for Lori. And maybe next month I'll give you answers. No, it doesn't work that way. I think by that point you would have already forgotten what you asked. If that's the case, maybe afterwards you can follow us over to Discord. That's a great place to ask some questions when we're not live. Go to ProfessorMesser.com/Discord or click the Discord icon that's in the upper right on my website. That is our chat, so you can be in there, and we talk about all kinds of things. There's a general chat, and we break some things down for the CompTIA exams, all there at ProfessorMesser.com/Discord. We'd love to see you there as well. We always have a good time in there. Eventually, you're going to need to take your exam. It's happening. It has to, at some point, it's an inevitability. So one of the things I tell you is you can go out to the Pearson Vue website and purchase a voucher at full price. Or you can go to ProfessorMesser.com/vouchers and purchase a voucher for less than that, automatically discounted. You don't need a coupon code. You don't need an extension in your browser. You don't have to hunt around Google to try to find a discount. They're just built in. They're already discounted, and everybody gets that same great discounted cost at ProfessorMesser.com/vouchers. Not only are you getting your voucher, but you also get a free copy of my Exam Hacks ebook. You don't get that over on the Pearson Vue website. That's just thrown in for free. An Exam Hacks book that you can't buy. It's only available when you get a voucher or when you purchase one of my Success Bundles. So rather exclusive. So come on over to ProfessorMesser.com/vouchers. Have a look at what's there. Maybe you can find a deal on your voucher that you just can't get anywhere else. Let's go back to that question I asked earlier. Oh, before we do that, I want to thank Old School Mario. It's a me, Mario, in the chat room with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Old School Mario. I'm definitely Old School Mario. Did not get an original Nintendo, but Super Nintendo was my first one. A lot of reasons behind that. We can really talk it out and explain more in the after show, but that's the challenge. Let's answer this question first. By the way, thank you again, Old School Mario, for the super chat. We sure appreciate it. So let's have a look at this question. Which of the following would be the best example of an RTOS? Is it USB data blocker, RAID, steganography, fog computing, or automobile? Let's see how you answered. If we click the show results option, 55% of you say it's an automobile. 15% said USB data blocker, now 14% said RAID, 12% said fog computing. That's effectively a three-way tie for third. And then lastly, steganography at 6%, 55%, well over, or certainly just over, the majority. So a real-time operating system is what we are talking about there, an RTOS. This is an operating system that has a way to operate in effectively real time. That means other processes that are happening with this real-time operating system do not take over or take more time away from other processes. This could be especially important in an automobile because if you see something on the road and you hit the brakes, that braking system needs to immediately kick in. And you have a lot of technology behind braking systems in cars these days. So the anti-lock brakes have to determine what's the temperature, what's the weather like, is the road slippery, is the road dry, how is your tire performing? All of these variables go into how your car decides that it's going to stop when you hit that brake. You need an operating system that's not going to be spinning, doing something else while you're trying to hit that brake. The moment you punch the brake, it needs to kick in. And the way you do that is through the use of a real-time operating system. These are very powerful systems. They're very specific systems. This is not Windows. This is not Linux or most versions of Linux. There are some Linux kernels out there that are designed to be more of a real-time operating system. So you're starting to see different operating systems that can provide some of these real-time features for you. That's what we were looking for. The best example of an RTOS, a real-time operating system, is an automobile. A USB data blocker is not a real-time operating system. That is an adapter you would have on a USB connection that would prevent someone from getting into the data over that USB link, primarily used when you want to charge something. You have RAID, the redundant array of independent or inexpensive disks. If you go back to the old school days, that's what that was about. We've got steganography, which is a way to hide information within another type of media. That's not a real-time operating system. And fog computing, although there are operating systems used with fog computing, they are not real-time operating systems. The best example here of real-time operating systems would be the one in an automobile. If you answered E, you got it absolutely right. That's our rewind question. We did that question last month. We sort of give it as a rewind question this month to see if you're able to get in, answer the questions, and see if you remember what the answers might be. You did a pretty good job there in answering E, automobile. In the chat room, Lauren with a $4.99 super chat. Lauren says, thanks, Professor. Passed the Security Plus recently using your course notes, videos, and practice tests. Your questions are closest to the real thing, Lauren says. Well, that's by design. We'll talk more about the practice exams in just a bit, where those questions come from. They are designed to be as close as possible to the real thing because I wrote them to be that way. They are all original questions that I wrote, but I wrote them with a similar theme. So I'm glad it worked out for you, Lauren. Thank you so much. Marvin in the chat room with the €20 super chat says, hi, Prof. Recently passed my SY0-601 exam with an 800 out of 900. We want to know your secret, Marvin. We want to know how you got 800 points. Your content played a huge part of my success. Thank you. Keep up the good work. That's fantastic. What a great story. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Marvin. We appreciate the super chat. We appreciate the support, and we appreciate Lucy with it. This is going to be a long live stream, I think. Lucy with the $10 super chat says, hi, Professor Messer. Thank you so much for the awesome content. I passed after 3 attempts. Lucy takes exams like I do. And within a few months, got an entry-level ISSO position. Fantastic. There are not a lot of great security positions out there that you can get at the entry level. When you find one, go for it, because that's great. And Lucy says, your practice questions are a game changer. I love it. I love it. I love it. Congratulations. 3rd time's the charm. I've been through at least one set of certification exams that I took 3 times. So I feel you. I'm right there with you. So that is great to see, great to hear. I love that you got passed the Security Plus and then got the job offer. That's really what we're trying to do here. It's not about, well, it is about getting the certification, but the certification is a means to the end. We want you to get a job or get a better job. This is just one of the ways that's going to help you along that path. I'm glad it worked out for you. Fantastic. Before we go to our performance-based question of the month, I also want to thank Jeffrey in the chat room with the $20 super chat. You guys are bringing it strong today, right off the top rope. I don't even know what to say. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for your support, Jeffrey. Thank you so much for everybody who is putting in things in the super chat. Thank you. Well, just thank you for being here. Let's see how well you do with today's performance-based question of the month. One of the things I think a lot of people don't realize, I had someone mention this for me today or this week in my chat room, is they said they sat down for the exam and they were thrown because the first questions on the exam were not multiple choice questions like this one, where you get a question with multiple answers on it. They did not know that the first handful of questions on the exam were questions about that were anything but multiple choice. They were fill in the blank. They were drag and drop. They were matching questions. They were questions that put them at a command prompt and asked them to perform a function. And you're right. Chat room's like, oh, these performance-based questions are kind of scary. I don't know about this. But the reality is, it's simply asking you questions of information that you've already studied from the CompTIA exam objectives, because the objectives tell you what's going to be on the exam. They're just asking the question in a different way. They're not really difficult. I don't find them to be difficult. They are different than performance-based questions. And on every study group, I like to give you a new performance-based question. So let's do this one. Performance-based question. This is a matching question. And this matching question asks, match the attack with the description. I think you can pretty much read that. My head's in the way for some of this, but I think we can pass through it. The attacks are listed on the right. There are 7 attacks, but there are only 4 descriptions. That means there's going to be some attacks left over at the end. So that's what this performance-based question is about. If you think they are already in the right order, you can simply type in A1, B2, C3, D4. You're done. That's not the answer, by the way. So this is great. We can now step through these. For those of you listening in on the podcast side, let's step through each one of the descriptions, and then I'll step through each one of the attacks. The descriptions are, a technician from the WAN provider has arrived without a filed trouble ticket. The second is, malware installed in a boot sector loads with the operating system. The third is, a large influx of traffic has disabled a web service. And the last attack is, a secure connection has been downgraded to an insecure protocol. The 7 different attack types, of which we will use 4 of them, is logic bomb, buffer overflow, on-path attack, impersonation, SSL stripping, DDoS, and rootkit. Those are the 7 different attack types. They are logic bomb, buffer overflow, on-path attack, impersonation, SSL stripping, DDoS, and rootkit. So all four of these are real attack types. They are ripped from the headlines, as they say. The first is, a technician from the WAN provider has arrived without a filed trouble ticket. The second is, malware installed in a boot sector loads with the operating system. The third is, a large influx of traffic has disabled a web service. And the fourth is, a secure connection has been downgraded to an insecure protocol. Have a look at those. Lock in your answer by following the link on the page. Go to professormesser.com/QA. Please no answers in the chat room. You guys have been very good about that so far. Thank you so much. And please no hints in the chat room. I do want to mention also in the chat room, Tony is cool. And I say Tony is cool because not only is that his name in the chat room, but Tony has a $9.99 super chat, which I think is pretty cool. Thank you, Tony, for the super chat. Tony says, shout out Professor Messer, passed the Security Plus exam yesterday. Congratulations. Actually missed the first attempt by less than 3%. Con. But also passed the second attempt by less than 3%. So somewhere in there. It could have gone either way, right? But it went the right way on the second time. That actually means you studied exactly the right amount on the second time through. I always tell people when they say, I just barely passed, there's no such thing. There's no barely passed, you passed. That's exactly where it would be. You passed the exam. There are no bareleys, there's no numbers. It's either a pass or a fail, and you passed. And if you pass just over the line, I like to think that means you studied exactly the right amount. You did not overstudy. You studied exactly what you should. Tony, thank you for the super chat. Congratulations on your Security Plus. We wish you the best with that. Yes, you overstudied by 3%. So technically that is correct. That is the best kind of correct, as they say. It is that is true. You overstudied by 3%. Really, I guess you overstudied by, no, I guess it would be 3% because you have to get it exactly on the right number to pass the exam. So congratulations for getting through that. Let's step through this performance-based question and see how well you did with this matching. Let's start with the very first one that says, a technician from the WAN provider has arrived without a filed trouble ticket. What, does this person just show up randomly? Apparently so. They just showed up, said, hi, I'm from the WAN provider to take care of the ticket that's in your data center. Oh, okay, come on in. That's an attack. That's not somebody from the WAN provider. That's somebody who showed up that said they were from the WAN provider because there's no ticket. They should not be here. It's just a random thing that happened. That is impersonation. You can't see it because my big head's in the way right there. But that is what that is. Impersonation is what is happening there. Whenever you get in a situation where somebody's saying that they are someone they are not, whether it's on the phone, whether it's in person, they are impersonating someone else. That certainly seems to be the case. If we had to pick an attack type from our list, that's the one that fits the best. It is impersonation. Second on our list is that malware installed in a boot sector loads with the operating system, which means this is probably an older operating system running with an older BIOS, because as we know, Secure Boot's not going to allow that. But maybe this is a system that is not running with Secure Boot. Maybe it is a legacy system, which is one of the few that would be able to get malware in the boot sector. In that particular case, that's a rootkit. We refer to those as rootkits because it's hiding in the boot sector, which means no matter how much we clean our system, the moment we reboot, our system is infected again. That's not what we're looking for. So rootkits they did exist. We have done amazing things in our industry with being able to prevent rootkits. A good example of that is creating BIOS that has digital signatures and Secure Boot to prevent anybody from modifying those important boot files. And if you can't modify them, you can't hide malware in them. That's a rootkit. Answer B goes with 7, rootkit. Third on our list, a large influx of traffic has disabled a web service. That's not good because that is most likely a distributed denial of service attack, a DDoS. And that's what you will see if someone tries to take down a website or a set of services by overloading it, overwhelming it, or finding ways to make it stop working. That is a distributed denial of service attack. That's it. And lastly, a secure connection has been downgraded to an insecure protocol. What kind of attack would that be? In this particular case, SSL stripping fits extremely well into this particular example. That's what we're looking for is the SSL stripping attack. I have a nice overview in my video on how SSL stripping works and why it would be this connection being downgraded to an insecure protocol would work. That leaves us with 3 that we did not use. Logic bomb, which is commonly used or associated with an event. An event occurs and that fires off this particular malicious process. That event can be somebody saving a file. It can be a time of day. It can be anything that causes that bomb to go off. And so a logic bomb is not one of those different descriptions that we have in the list of attacks. We also have buffer overflow. Some folks said, why would buffer overflow not work for a secure connection being downgraded? Buffer overflows are very difficult types of attacks to implement because it is one that either something happens randomly every time you overflow a buffer that is susceptible to this, or you're able to somehow make it do a particular thing every time. But even the things that it's able to do are limited. So this is not a case where a buffer overflow would work with downgrading an insecure protocol. Certainly not the best option, giving all of the ones we have available. The one that really does fit the best here, really does describe what this attack is SSL stripping. SSL stripping is a downgrade attack. So that is why that would be. The reason you would not have chosen downgrade attack on here is because I didn't offer it as an option. This is something very, very common on the exam. I got an email just this week about this where somebody said, I went through your questions, and on this question, I would have answered this answer, except the answer they gave me is not one of the available options. And I said, well, that's probably what I would have chosen too, but it's not there. You don't have that as an option, which means you have to think outside of the box that you were already in. Given the available options, which one of these is going to be the best answer? And that's critical on the exam. You have to look at what options are available. It may be that in the particular environment that person's working with, the one that was the obvious answer in their head is not available to them. So that's the key, is being able to make that happen. Malware installed in the boot sector loads where the operating system is definitely rootkit. Would not be another type of attack. Would not be a buffer overflow. That's not what a malware loading in a boot sector. That's definitely rootkit. So that's a good example of what that would be. Lastly on our list, the other one we didn't use was an on-path attack. In some ways, an SSL stripping attack is a type of on-path attack. But I wanted to put both of those in the list because I wanted you to choose the best answer. And that is key with this exam. You have to choose the best answer in all of these. So that's where this comes from, is finding exactly the right answer to fit the question. And that's why it's so important that you understand the nuances. I often tell folks not to go through the list and memorize a bunch of abbreviations. What you have to do is go through the list and find the best option for these. So that's what I would recommend you do as well, is to go through that and find the best options. That is our list. It's right there. I know you can't read it very well, but that first option there, impersonation. I bet if I actually had a view of this that didn't have my head in the way, see, that's better. Now you can see it, but now you can't see me. That's one of those. And the piece that's there. So that's why whenever you start working through these problems and you're wondering, why am I not seeing, why don't see an answer that I would expect? That's because they removed the answer you would expect and put the second best answer into that list that you now have to find. That's what we want to do. So hopefully you're familiar with these. A technician arriving without a trouble ticket, that's somebody trying to impersonate a technician. The malware installed in the boot sector, that's a rootkit. Large influx of traffic disabling a web service, definitely a distributed denial of service. And then lastly, a secure connection being downgraded to an insecure protocol is SSL stripping, which does use on-path in most cases to make that happen. Doesn't have to. That's the easiest way, and SSL stripping is really the best answer for something like that. So absolutely the way it goes with these performance-based questions. Hopefully you were able to match up the right things and get this performance-based question locked in. Let's now move to another question. We're going to go back to our multiple choice-based question. And this multiple choice-based question asks, which of the following data types is the most volatile? Which of the following data types is the most volatile? Is it backup tapes, temporary files, ARP cache, router configuration, or stored log files? Which of the following data types is most volatile? Is it backup tapes, temporary files, ARP cache, router configuration, stored log files? Lock in your answer by visiting that link right there, professormesser.com/QA. Please know links in the chat room, hints in the chat room, answers in the chat room. We're going to pretend we're starting it up right now on our exam. We don't have any resources available. No Googling. Don't do that. See if you can figure out what the most volatile is. This is a good example, by the way, of a question where you really have to read every single answer to be able to answer the question. There are some like that, and this is a really good example of one. In the chat room, question is, are you penalized for wrong answers on the Security Plus exam? We don't know a lot about the grading process for Security Plus, but what we do know is that you do not appear to be penalized for putting in a wrong answer, which means there's no penalty for guessing. If you get a question right, you get points. If you get a question wrong, you get no points. But they don't take points away from you for getting a question wrong. Think of it that way. So that's what we're trying to do, is figure out what the right answer is, submit that. But if you don't know the right answer, guess. Absolutely guess. Never leave a question blank on your exam. Before you submit your exam, make sure at least something is checked, because you might guess right. You might get free points off of that one, and it's never a negative. You can't go wrong for that. So that's why I mentioned. So that's absolutely something you should be familiar with. That strategy is a good one when you're working through it. Let's see how you did with this question. The question asked, which of the following data types is the most volatile? Is it backup tapes, temporary files, ARP cache, a router configuration, or stored log files? How did you answer? Let's look at the results. 45% of us say an ARP cache is the most volatile. Temporary files are at 38%, so not far behind. Those are pretty close to each other because everything else is single digits. Backup tapes at 5%, router configuration at 7%, stored log files at 5%, effectively a three-way tie for second. It's really between temporary files and ARP cache. Right now, ARP cache has a little bit of a lead up to 45%, but again, no majority, so we're just not sure. What we should do is probably look at my list of the order of volatility from my video on forensics data acquisition in section 4.5 of the 601 exam, where I list out a very good example of a number of different items that are inside of your computer, and I list out which are the most volatile, and then I go all the way down to the bottom of the list to the least volatile. So you can see all of those. And you can see the ones at the top are the most volatile because they don't stick around very long. They're here very, very short period of time. For example, at the very top of the list, CPU registers. You imagine how often a CPU register is updated if your CPU is running millions or billions of transactions a second. So you can imagine that's some type of data that's here for a moment and then it's gone. That's how volatile that data is. Also on the list, things like a router table and ARP cache and other things are in the memory of your systems. Those are certainly very volatile because they will be gone very quickly. Temporary file systems stick around a little bit longer. Information you stored on a disk is even longer. Remote logging and monitoring data may even be kept for an extremely long amount of time. So you can see the farther you go down this list, the longer the data is there. So if you're someone who is now in charge of collecting data, forensics information from a system that has been compromised, you want to start at the top of this list and begin gathering as much information as possible because it's not going to be here for very long. That data is volatile. It is something that will not be around. So if I had to choose in everything that is here, the type of data that is going to disappear first out of all 5 of these is indeed the ARP cache. 45% of you chose C, ARP cache. That is the temporary cache of ARP information that is stored on your computer. It is usually only there for a matter of minutes, and then it times out and disappears completely. And if you had to communicate to that device again, you would have to re-ARP and get the ARP again. It would go back into the ARP cache, but it's only here for a certain amount of time, and then it's gone. Only a matter of minutes. So an ARP cache does not stick around very long. Temporary files are generally here for much longer. You could probably go back to your temporary file folder in your version of Windows or Linux or Mac OS or whatever operating system you're using. The temporary files can be there for days, sometimes weeks, sometimes more. I have found temporary files on my system that go back months. It just depends on how those are used and how often that particular temporary file space is cleared out. So that is an important consideration. Certainly temporary files stick around longer than an ARP cache. It's a good example of something that is less volatile than an ARP cache would be a temporary file. There are other things here. We have a three-way tie for second place effectively. A router configuration. This is the information you put into a router that defines its configuration. What IP address is part of interface 00? What IP address is part of interface 01? What subnet mask does it use? What do you put in here for routing? Is there a static route we want to add? Any of those settings in your router are things that are stored on the system. So when you start the router up, it grabs the configuration and uses that configuration to configure all of its settings. So that's the important part. with this. The router configuration is only something that changes when you change the config of a router. And quite honestly, once a router is configured, it's pretty rare for you to go in and make a change unless you're changing something with your infrastructure. So I would say even router configurations, at least I would put them on the same category as a temporary file, but they're probably, in practical terms, even less volatile than a temporary file. It's usually around much longer than a temporary file. Those router configurations, I bet I can go back to my router configuration and it's years old. I bet that's the case. I've not changed it in a long time. So a router configuration generally does not change at all very quickly. So certainly an ARP cache is going to change faster. So right now ARP cache is still in the lead. We also have backup tapes. Backup tapes can be put in the vault for years. So immediately we can discount that because ARP caches stick around for minutes. Backup tapes stick around for years, certainly more than a day. So you can certainly make a case that they are less volatile than an ARP cache. And lastly, a stored log file. Again, log files are things we tend to keep for a very long period of time because often it might be a month from now when somebody says, I just found something odd on the network. Can we go back and look at the statistics from last month? Well, we would need log files to be able to do that, so we generally keep them around for a very long time. Of all of the things on this list, the one that sticks around for the least amount of time, and in this particular case, it's very clear that it's the least amount of time, is indeed an ARP cache. If you answered C, 46% of you got that one absolutely correct. Well done. Let's do another question. Now that we've gone through the order of volatility, which is pretty important, let's have a look. Oh, somebody in the chat room checked their temporary file space. They have temporary files in their system. Michael says from July of 2021, almost a year old. So that's a good example of what is there. Let's do another question. So let's go the different direction with this. And it asks, which of the following would be categorized as a detective security control? Would it be door lock, motion sensor, backup power system, UPS, or warning sign? Which of the following would be categorized as a detective security control? Is it door lock, motion sensor, backup power system, UPS, or warning sign? It's got to be one of those. If you think you know the answer, there's your link on the screen. Go to professormesser.com/QA and lock in your answer. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. We'll figure all of these out as we go through it. I think this is one where you should be able to do kind of a calculatus eliminatus here. We're really looking for one individual option, although certainly, I don't know if we have to really read through every answer here, but I think it would really help if you did, to be very familiar with these. I see some folks in the chat room talking about the online system for taking your exam. We can talk more about that as we go through. Maybe in the after show, we'll have a little conversation about, do you take your exam online or do you take your exam in a testing center? We'll have to find out what most people think. I have my own opinions. I'll tell you what those are. None of them are, I think, things you have not heard from me. It's pretty much the same story for me. I've not changed my mind, if you're wondering. So I still have the same opinion I did last month, and I'll tell you what that opinion is in just a bit. Right now, you need to lock in this particular security control, which is a detective security control, and you need to tell me what the right answer would be. Would it be a door lock, a motion sensor, a backup power system, a UPS, or a warning sign? And let's see what the results are. 90% of you, 90, say that it is a motion sensor. We're all either very right or very wrong. We're going to find out in a moment. And then we got effectively a four-way tie for second, starting with 5% for the warning sign, 4% for the door lock, 2% for a backup power system, and then 1% for a UPS, which is sort of the same as a backup power system, but not necessarily, and we can talk about that. So let's talk about a detective security control. Detective means it detects something. It identifies that something is there or that something has happened, but it doesn't necessarily, and usually doesn't, prevent any access to an area. So this is an important consideration, being able to know that something happened, but then not being able to stop it from happening is effectively the definition of a detective security control. So things like a motion detector, an intrusion detection system, it's in the name itself, isn't it? So anytime you see a detective security control, you should think of an IDS. Oh, it detects, but it doesn't stop. It sees that it's there, but it can't prevent it. That is effectively the definition of a detective control type. That's what we were looking for. So if we go through this list to find out, can it detect but not stop? Let's go through them. So the first one is a UPS, an uninterruptible power supply. A UPS is there. If you lose power, the UPS kicks in and continues to provide, in most cases, battery power so that you can continue operating. So it doesn't actually, I guess it sort of detects, but it also provides additional power so that nothing happens to you. So could we sort of put part of a UPS in the detect column? I guess maybe, but we don't tend to think of a UPS that way. The UPS is more of a reactionary result of this. We can go through all the control types to see which ones you're most interested in after this, but that's the one that I would probably focus on, is avoiding the idea of a UPS being detective. It's almost the same as a backup power system. I put both of those in there because, of course, backup power systems work very similar to UPS. Most of the time, they're using something like a generator to be able to provide the power, but it could also, UPS's category of a backup power system. So both of those are effectively the same, and they are effectively not what we're looking for. They are not, neither of those is a detective security system. We have a door lock. A door lock doesn't really tell us when somebody is trying to get into a room. The door lock prevents somebody from getting into the room. So I would categorize that as a preventive security control because it doesn't tell us. Now, if there was some type of sensor on the door that noticed when people were jiggling the door, I don't know anybody who's got one of those, but I guess you could. Now, if somebody had a lock and you tried your access card and the access card denied you access and that was logged, maybe we could categorize that as detective, but that's not really the best categorization of the list of things that we have for a detective system. And it's not unusual, by the way, for a certain component or process to be listed in multiple security controls. These are not mutually exclusive. We can share them across multiple controls as well. And then lastly, we have a warning sign. Don't do this. I'm warning you. Does that detect anything from happening? No, it doesn't. Does it prevent someone from doing something? It might. But generally, it's just a warning sign. It doesn't actually stop anything. And we're looking for something that can detect that an event has occurred. Warning signs are completely passive. They're static. They don't tell you when something has occurred. So in this case, the 87% of you that said motion sensor got that one absolutely right. That's what we were looking for. And that's the picture of the motion sensor right there. There it is. That is our detective control type. That's what we were using to be able to identify someone walking through a room. We detected that someone was there. So that's exactly what we would use for all of those. All of these security controls and security control types are in my video on section 5.1 on a video that aptly is called Security Controls. You can look at the deterrents and the preventives and the detectives and all of those. They're all in there. I go through every single one of them so you can understand what the differences are between all of those different control types. There is so much, as you can tell already today, there's so much in these videos that talks about control types and encryption methods and being able to understand the different security devices that you need to put into your network and so on and so on and so on. There's so much that is in there. So what I did was create a single set of notes. This is the physical version that you see in my hand. That is this full color, 120 pages of notes that come directly from every single video. And it's one that has information in it that it might be able to help you on the exam. Here's what it looks like. Here's the digital version of that same document. And you can either get a digital version of these notes or a physical version of these notes. And if you get the physical version, I give you the digital version for no extra cost. These are my course notes. You've heard other people in the chat room already mention how valuable those course notes were to them, especially during their testing process. That's what they're designed to do. Not everybody has the ability to go through every single video to try to find everything that's there. So that's why I created the course notes. Somebody in the chat room said, well, does it even have a table of contents? Of course it does. An extensive table of contents that breaks it down by every single video, tells you what page it's on, and of course you can click on it and go directly to the page. That's the beauty of a digital PDF. This is identical to what you will get in the physical book as well. It's a great addition to your book, your notes, your labs, and anything else you're using. You can find out more about it on my website, professormesser.com/601cn for 601 course notes. Let's do some more questions. Here's the next one on our list. It asks, an administrator was able to determine the password for each email login occurring during a morning security test. That seems extreme. Which of the following would be the most likely explanation? Would it be MAC spoofing, replay attack, driver manipulation, wireless disassociation attack, or insecure protocols? An administrator was able to determine the password for each email login occurring during a morning security test. Which of the following would be the most likely explanation? Would it be MAC spoofing, replay attack, driver manipulation, wireless disassociation attack, or insecure protocols? If you think you know the answer, please know answers in the chat room. You want to go to this link on your page, professormesser.com/QA, right there in front of you. Go to that link and lock in your answer. It's a good place to go. Thank you, folks in the chat room, for your comments on the course notes. We work very hard at putting these course notes together and making them valuable. And I think that's seen by some of the folks that are talking about what they use them for. We've got folks in the chat room. Pastor Security Plus, at the beginning of this month, finished everything in 3 weeks. Did you do any sleeping or eating? That's a very aggressive schedule. The videos really helped. These study groups were helpful. Thank you so much. I'm more than happy to help. I'm so glad it helped you as well. Thank you for watching the videos and going through it. I think having a solid study plan, using the course notes, using the exam objectives, using a good book, and getting some labs, all of these work together. That's an important part of this. So I think that's the one that I think will help a number of us as we're getting through the study process. Use everything you can. Use as many different resources as you possibly can. A great way to do it. No sleeping, no eating. See, I told you. It helps that it was Ramadan and you were fasting. See, it all works together. Maybe that's what we should all do. No eating or sleeping until you get your certification exam. I don't know if that's the best idea for all of us. That wouldn't work for me. I would not be able to do that. So congratulations to you for doing it. You've gone a step further than what I would have been able to accomplish. Congratulations. Let's see how we did with this question that asked, an administrator was able to determine the password for each email login occurring during a morning security test, which is, by the way, pretty extreme. I did mention that in my first read-through of this. They determined the password for each and every email login during a security test. That's remarkable. So that should lead us down a road. So which of the following would be the most likely explanation? Is it MAC spoofing, replay attack, driver manipulation, a wireless disassociation attack, or insecure protocols? How did you answer? I think this one might be a gimme. Wasn't as much of a gimme as I thought. We have 76% of you that said insecure protocols. 14% of you said a replay attack. We've also got 6% that said MAC spoofing, and then 2% said driver manipulation, and 1% said wireless disassociation attack. Wow, there's a lot going on there. If I had to choose from this list as to what the most likely explanation would be, then I would have to choose an insecure protocol. How do you get access to every single user that logged into email during a certain time frame? That should never, never, never happen. That should be extremely difficult to make something like that happen. So that's why it has to be a case where you're able to easily gain access to all of these passwords. And in fact, you probably have access to the network as well. So you could do that. So you could take some packet captures. You can read the email messages coming through. We talk about the wall of sheep in the Security Plus course, where in some of these trade shows, they will monitor the wireless network and they will find everyone who is communicating over an insecure protocol and tell you all of their email, their email login, their username and password. They put it up on the screen to show how insecure you are being. Probably, I don't know if you can really do that anymore. I think that's the real key with this, is trying to figure out those pieces. But that's why I used that as one of the options here. Why wouldn't it be one of the others though? Why wouldn't it be a replay attack? 14% of you chose replay. With a replay attack, you're capturing packets to begin with. And I guess we can assume here that if you're logging into email and you can't read it, it must be sending it in at least a hashed form. Well, then you take that hashed information, you can replay it to have it log you in with effectively the same credentials, but you still can't see the credentials. Replaying a hash might give you some level of access, but you still don't know what the password is because it's hashed. So that's not the issue we had here. We were able to determine the password for each email login. So a replay attack would, in most cases, never tell us that. If it was able to tell us that, then it's probably running as an insecure protocol, and that was the best option that you should have chosen. The other options here, MAC spoofing, which could possibly get around certain security controls by using a MAC address that somebody else was using previously, but that still wouldn't give us anyone's email password. That wouldn't get us in. If it was that easy to get into an email, we probably wouldn't be using email. So MAC spoofing, not a good option here. Wouldn't provide us with that attack. Driver manipulation is probably the only other option on this list that could possibly be a technically correct answer. Because if you were able to get in and modify someone's driver to capture them typing in the password, well, that would be pretty good. That's a pretty unusual use. Plus, it would require us to go to every single device on the network and install that driver. That's not very practical, and it doesn't really fit this particular scenario where the administrator was just able to determine the password. Didn't say anything about installing drivers in everyone's machine. I agree with the chat room. It's a little bit of a reach. Technically correct, but not correct. Not correct in this case. Could happen, not likely. And we were looking for most likely. And lastly, a wireless disassociation attack is a denial of service. It takes people on the wireless network and boots them off. Does not give you any special access to their email and certainly will not tell you their email password. The only option here that makes any sense, the one that is most likely, I guess two makes sense, but only one is most likely. Indeed, insecure protocols are most likely in this case to be the explanation for this, because we were able to get everyone's password. And that's a pretty unusual thing to happen. If you're watching this video for continuing education unit credit, which means you already have a certification or you have another certification or something somewhere that expects you to collect CEUs, I would be glad to send you an email with the continuing education unit credit. The way that you would receive that email is that you would go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website, click the Contact Us link. In that Contact Us link, put your name, your email address. In the subject line, please put May 2022 Security Plus, and then the super secret code word of the month, which is driver manipulation. Driver manipulation is our super secret code word of the month. Just put that either in the subject line, which would be ideal, or on a line by itself in the body of the message. And then, of course, you can put anything else you would like in the body of that message. I do read through every single one of those. I'm not able to answer back with every single one of those because I get hundreds of these requests every month. But I do read, just let you know, I do read through every single one of them, and I sure appreciate you putting those comments in there. It really is a lot of fun when I go through these to be able to read through that. So again, you go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website, click the Contact Us link, put your name, your email address in the subject line, put that this is the May 2022 Security Plus Study Group, and then either on that subject line or on a line by itself in the body of the message, put the super secret code word of the month, driver manipulation. Driver manipulation is what we were looking for. Maybe that's will get us to where we need to be. I have more questions for you, Boy, this hour is going so quickly. Let's keep it moving. Next question on our list asks, which of the following would be most associated with TOTP? Would that be GPS coordinates, a phone app, a Faraday cage, a diamond model, or an air gap? Which of the following would be most associated with TOTP? Is it GPS coordinates, phone app, Faraday cage, diamond model, or air gap? If you think you know the answer, there's your link. Go to professormesser.com/QA and go to lock your answer in right there. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. I want to see how you do with this one. Yes, the super secret code word for Uncle Phil's fudge was back in February, wasn't it, or January? We did it earlier, so I'm probably not going to do that one again, but certainly there. I was talking with Uncle Phil this past week. We always text back and forth. Here's what's going on. How's the family? What's happening? And the fudge is better than ever. He's finding all kinds of new things. There's always a new flavor. We get to be the guinea pigs to see, well, how about this flavor? He has a key lime fudge. Brought that over. He has a butterbeer fudge, which was amazing. I don't know if he can use it, butterbeer, the term. That's probably trademark, but it is a buttery type of beerish fudge. I don't know if that really got around the trademark piece of it, but that's the real key. I don't know that he has a raspberry fudge. That sounds pretty good. Most of his fudges, because he lives in Florida, are Florida type flavors. That's his thing. He loves the Florida flavors. So key lime fudge is great. But he's got some other ones there. There's vegan fudge on his website. Who knows what the things he's working on. That's something I just am not able to manage. He's much better at doing that than I could ever be. So, and plus it's delicious. I just like when he comes over and he usually has an armful of fudge. He just drops it off. It's the best. It's the best. I always enjoy that part of it. Let's see how you did with this question. The question asked, not everybody jumping in on this one, so I'm interested to see the answer. The question asks, which of the following would be most associated with TOTP? Would it be GPS coordinates, a phone app, a Faraday cage, diamond model, or an air gap? All very different things. Let's see how you answered. By far, most of you, 68% of you, say that's a phone app that would be associated with that. 13% said GPS coordinates. 6% Faraday cage, 6% diamond model, 6% air gap. It's a sign of the apocalypse, everybody. That's what it is. Nope, there's actually 4 sixes. So now we messed up the whole thing. Oh, that's okay. 68% said phone app for TOTP. I guess it would be useful to know what TOTP was. TOTP is the time-based, one-time password algorithm. It's one of the ways when you're logging into a system where you can provide additional information as an additional authentication factor that can help you during the login process to help prove that you are you. That's the real key. This is usually set up way ahead of time so that everything is synced up to the time of day. And then the numbers that you get generally on a phone app are a code that you would then put in during the login process to prove that you are the one who has this phone with you. It's something you have. So only one person in the world has that, turns out to be a pseudo-random number. It seems like it's a random number, but really both sides know what number is coming next. And it is on the phone that gives you that particular breakdown of what that number happens to be. So you're logging in. Here's my username. Here's my password. You hit enter, and then it says you need to put in the code so that you can keep this login going. So you have to go find your phone, open up the app, see what the code is. There it is. There's your code. You type that code in, and then finally you can log in. That's why a lot of attacks, especially phishing attacks, are people texting you, trying to get you to put that code into the text box back to them so they can log into your account. The moment you see someone trying to do that to you, you should go check that account to see exactly what your username and password is. It's time to reset your password on that particular account. I use a password manager. Every single one of my passwords, or of the over 1,000 credentials that I have on the internet, practically every single one of them is a different password, and a very random, very different password. So that's a pretty important part of this, is that you're able to have something to protect you if somebody comes across your password. Well, having a TOTP is going to be very useful for that. That is indeed mostly associated with a phone app, although it could be an offline TOTP as well. It's just we carry our phones everywhere. Why not have it on a phone or a smartwatch or something that you're using? It makes perfect sense. Would not be GPS coordinates. GPS coordinates technically, or in fact, in my case, would rarely change when I'm logging in because I'm sitting in the same chair every time. That's not a very good use of a time-based one-time password algorithm. Not something I would use. We have a Faraday cage, which is a metal cage that prevents signals from going in and out. Very unusual to find one of these days. Have to be a very specific situation to find a Faraday cage, and certainly would not be associated with a time-based one-time password. We have a diamond model, which is a way to describe attacks. It's not really something you would use during a login process, so that doesn't qualify as something associated with the TOTP. And then lastly, an air gap. That's where you keep systems disconnected from each other, not by using routers or firewalls or access lists, but instead you just completely separate them, and the only thing between them is air. You don't even use wireless networks. They're not connected at all. They are completely separated from each other. They are not connected in any way, shape, or form. Very common to have that happen. Folks in the chat room saying Faraday cages are usually in conference rooms. I've never been in a conference. I have been in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of conference rooms. None of them ever had a Faraday cage. In fact, in a normal environment, it would actually be dangerous to have a Faraday cage in a conference room. You would never want to be in a place where you would not be able to contact emergency services with your phone, which is why we generally don't see those. It's really for a very narrow focus, usually a very small area, and something that's very sensitive. Maybe you're measuring RF from a device. Well, that makes sense. You don't want RF from somewhere else coming in. There's radio frequencies. Yes, you're protecting yourself against the aliens sending the EMP. That's what you do with a Faraday cage. In this case, TOTP, most associated with a phone app. That's what I would use in this case as well. It's really the best option given everything that is on that list. Every single one of the questions you saw today were questions I wrote last week. Every time we do one of these live streams, they are all new questions. And every question you're seeing from these live streams are all different than questions that are in my practice exams book. My practice exams book, I have never put any of these questions online. You've never seen them in a study group. They are all original questions. I wrote every single one of the 3 sets of 90 question exams that are in this book. All original questions that I personally wrote. So that there's a reason for that. And the reason is that it's very difficult to find good practice exams. It's really difficult. I get people emailing me all the time asking me questions about that they got from bad practice exams and telling me, is this a bad question? I don't ever answer those. I send back a message that says, if you think it's a bad question, then you got it right. Yeah, it's a bad question. We're not going to try to parse out why it's bad. It's just bad. And the fact that you were able to recognize it's bad means that your studies are probably going pretty well. But that's why I wrote these practice exams, so that you could go through and use them. They are published as a PDF, which means the most number of people can have access to them. You don't have to use them online. You can take them with everywhere you are. Practically any device will be able to use them. They are about as global a set of practice exams as you can use. But even though it's a PDF, I still have some interesting links inside of it. For example, this is a PDF reader that's in my Mac OS. Let's do a question from the practice exam. This one, question A13, a CISO, which is a Chief Information Security Officer, would like to decrease the response time when addressing security incidents. Unfortunately, the company does not have the budget to hire additional security engineers. Which of the following would assist the CISO with this requirement? Would it be ISO 27701, PKI, IAAS, or SOAR? Now, if you have annotation capabilities built into your PDF reader, like I do, let's put an annotation for green. You could take different things that are in here and you can highlight them as you go if you wanted to. If you're using a tablet, you can write on the screen and annotate if you want to. It's a book. I also have links in here. You can see that if you want to see a quick answer, you go to page 33. If you want to go to the details, you go to page 50. But why would you fast forward or scroll through the book? Simply click where it says the details, and it takes you over to page 50. Or if you want quick answers, it takes you to page 33, and you're able to step through all of them. The questions in this book, by the way, come directly from the CompTIA exam objectives. I think that's a pretty important part of this. Is I've seen a number of practice exams where there are topics on the practice exam that have nothing to do with someone who is working through the Security Plus exam. And I have to wonder, why is anybody going through questions on the Security Plus exam that aren't right? That doesn't make sense either, that have nothing to do with the exam. And I don't know why there are questions like that, but I'm fine with that on the practice exam. If you're anyone who's ever had to go through a practice exam and you've gotten questions that didn't make sense, that's what I'm talking about when you do that. On the practice exam page, on the answer page, I've got answers here that tell you the answer was indeed D, SOAR. SOAR stands for Security Orchestration, Automation, and Response, and I give an explanation of why that's the right answer. That's what you would commonly find on a lot of practice exams. But I also, on every single incorrect answer, break down for you why every incorrect answer was wrong. That's the ones I always choose, by the way. And whenever I get a question wrong in a practice exam and it doesn't tell me why it's wrong, I've missed an opportunity to learn something. I missed an opportunity to get it right the next time. I've missed an opportunity to get that wrong answer right on another question. So I like to document every single wrong answer on these practice exams. And once you go through all the wrong answers, I even put a link to the video where the question came from. So if you don't even understand the question, then you can click any one of these to go to the link that takes you to that particular video so that you can understand more about what was being asked in the first place. All of this is in my practice exams book. That's what I designed this to be. There are both digital versions that you just saw and physical versions that I can send to you. They are on my website. You can choose which edition you would like. If you get the physical edition, then you get the digital one for free along with it, and it's downloadable immediately. Both of them are available on my site. Go to professormesser.com/securitype for more details. All of the questions came directly from the objectives. You can find everything you need to know about the exam in these objectives. Go to professormesser.com/objectives for a link over to the CompTIA website, or you can simply type into your favorite search engine, CompTIA exam objectives. That's where you should go. That's one of the best places to have it. I think if anyone is trying to work through, well, trying to feel for the things that are available on the exam and have an understanding of what might be on the exam, this is the ultimate information source, and it's free. So absolutely feel free to go along with and understand what options are available on the exam objectives. It's an extremely valuable document. Make sure you get your hands on that. We do one of these study groups every month. I have another one in June. June the 22nd is my next Security Plus study group. We have 8+ study groups on the 7th and the 9th. I have a Network Plus study group on the 15th. We have another Security Plus study group on the 22nd. If you're watching this video and it's after June the 22nd, or we're getting close to June the 22nd, and you're wondering, hey, are we going to have a new study group on the 22nd? Did the date change? Sometimes that happens. My life sometimes gets a little chaotic, and I have to move things around. So the best place to go as we're getting close to this is to always check the calendar. Go to professormesser.com/calendar. There's also an events tab or events channel in my Discord server. So that's another good place to go to find out if you're on Discord. I need to update it for June, but I will have that done today so you can get your hands on all of those. Plenty to go through. As we step through the rest of our day of Q&A, the part where I give the questions has sadly come to an end. We're past that first hour of the study group, but don't worry, we've got a lot more to go through in the after show. Feel free to go stay right here, right after we are done with this live stream. we keep it going. And then I start taking questions from the chat room. I just turn everything around. Don't forget that we have weekly Security Plus questions available on Twitter, professormesser.com/Twitter and professormesser.com/Instagram. Also on YouTube is our channel where you have all of our Security Plus videos. Every minute of every video is available for you to watch there for free. There's no registration. There's nothing held back. There's nothing behind a paywall. It's all on YouTube. Go to professormesser.com/YouTube. Don't forget about your voucher discounts at professormesser.com/voucher. And as you've already seen, we have both course notes and exams. If you buy them both at the same time, a little bit of a discount. Got to save some money. Find out more about that at professormesser.com/securitycn for security course notes. Thank you for being here in this first hour. Stick around for the after show. We've got a lot more going on. Thanks for everything throughout the month. We look forward to doing these again next month. We'll see you next time on the Security Plus Study Group. Okay. Let's get some coffee in us. Let's flip over a camera. Wait, that's not the camera I wanted. There we go. Now we're in the after show. Welcome to the after show, everybody. This is our study group after show. This is where I take questions from the chat room, and you can ask a question really about anything. It doesn't have to be about Security Plus. It doesn't have to be about certifications. It doesn't have to be about IT. A lot of the questions we get are very focused on those things, and that's fine too. But I'll try to answer any questions or every question that comes through. I think that's pretty useful. So we'll figure this out as we go along. There's a lot to go through. There were questions earlier. We were talking earlier about a number of questions. What was it that I can't scroll back quite that far? But when we were starting this, there was a question that someone asked, and I said, "We'll get to that in the after show." And I should have marked somebody in the chat room to be able to tell me the online exam. Thank you. See, this is why the chat room is there, is to keep me straight and honest. Thank you, chat room. So let's talk about the online exam and my ideas and philosophy about using the online. So for those of you that may not even be familiar with the exam taking process, you can take an exam at a testing center. Testing centers are traditionally the way we would take these exams. So you would go to a testing center that's somewhere in your area, in your city, somewhere nearby, somewhere worth driving to or close enough to drive to. You go to their facility, you check in, you show them your ID, you give them your phones and your wallets and everything. They stick it in a locker for you and give you the key. And then they put you in a room that has been specifically designed as an exam room. There's usually multiple systems with multiple monitors, and you would sit down at one of those stations. They'll load up the exam, and they tell you, all right, it's all you. Go ahead, follow the instructions. We'll see you in 90 minutes. That is the normal process when you go to a testing center. And there are usually cameras in the room. They are monitoring you. They're making sure that the testing is done in accordance with the rules and regulations that have been defined by CompTIA, and you take your exam on those systems. So there's also a way that you can take your exam online. This has really been a long time coming. We really pushed it through in 2020 for some reason. I don't know. Why would we need to have exams online? Well, in 2020, we decided that's a pretty good idea since we weren't able to go anywhere. And you can go to a website, load up an application, and take your exam with a proctor that is watching you through your webcam and listening in through your microphone, so that it is the same secure environment, or as identical as it can be to being at a testing center. Same level of security, same rules and regulations. In some cases, even more rules and regulations, because you can imagine, how do you turn a room that you're normally living in into something that is a secure testing environment? I mean, that's the key, right? So you have somebody watching you the whole time. And it is what we have found is that the people who are watching you, the proctors that are responsible for maintaining the overall security of these exams, are in some cases allow you to work through the exam, finish your exam, and everything works great. But other times there are proctors that go to the exact letter of the law, and if they hear you saying anything, they will interrupt the exam and tell you, no talking, which technically is the same rule as being at a testing center. That's an identical rule. But a lot of people will tell me, but I like to read through the question. Which of the following would be most associated with to be? That's not allowed. You can't do that. You cannot talk during the exam. The idea being that if there was a recording method, recording system somewhere in that room, you would be telling the recording system what your questions were. That's why you can't do that. In a testing center, it's probably additionally that other people in the room will be bothered by you doing this. So you just can't talk during the exam. But sometimes people aren't ready for that. Here's another thing you can't do. You can't be on the exam and cover your mouth because now they can't see if you're saying anything or not. So you can't do that. They will tell you, move your hand, move your hand. Oh, sorry, move your hand. Another one you can't do is you can't look at the screen like this. What's that say on the screen? Except now your head went out of the screen, and that's not allowed. So if you have a proctor that is very particular about staying secure with these rules and regulations, they will immediately stop the exam, hit a button and say, your exam is over. Your score is whatever your score is right now. And that's it. Your test is done. You have used your voucher. You have used your testing moment. The sitting for the exam is over. And now your exam is done. And sometimes it's been very abrupt. Now, sometimes it has been someone accidentally walks into the room and walks behind you. Not allowed. And they will absolutely stop it right there. So I think that's another one where people get frustrated over the process because they feel like it should be less intrusive and less strict when you're at home. But it's actually the opposite. It is more intrusive. It is more strict when that happens. So a question in the chat room, what happens if you passed when they stop the exam? This is something that has also happened. People will go all the way through the exam. They'll hit the submit button. At that point, you have to go through a series of questions that are questions about you, like your age range, where do you live, all of these questions that really define more details about the exam. And then it tells you passed or you failed. And there have been people that said, I passed today, I passed it. And the proctor says, you're yelling, you're talking, I'm stopping the exam. Wait, it was over. I just saw that I passed. Nope, I'm stopping it. Well, at that point, it's over. You passed. I mean, they could technically stop the exam right there, but of course they are recording all of these sessions as well. So if it was a problem, they could always go back to it to see exactly what happened during that time frame. To me, it seems a little bit overly strict that once the exam results have been shown to someone, that you're still playing the part of a proctor. The exam's over. You really don't have to be a proctor anymore, but they don't have that in their list of things. They weren't trained that way. These are people that they're just doing what they're told. So that's one of that. And then you'd have to open up some type of, if it didn't work out and you failed, you would have to then open a ticket with Pearson Vue, and they would have to look at the video and they would have to determine, were you being intentionally malicious with this? Were you trying to steal exam materials? Was this an accident? Should you really have not been? They can go through all of that and figure out the details. But there have been people that have kind of lost their opportunity. They've lost the money they've spent on that voucher because of that. I don't know if anybody really, if it's a legitimate case of someone who is just simply trying to lean in and look at the screen, well, they're going to get another chance to take the exam at that point. And people have been given another voucher to say, okay, let's do it again. This time, don't lean over. But I get it. Sometimes the things on the screen are so small that I have to, what is it? I can't read. What does it say? Well, of course I'm going to lean in. So that's why I say that, is that sometimes online is a more dynamic and abrupt way to take an exam. Is that a nice way to say it? Than if you were in a testing center. So that's why I tell people to really focus on that. It is a different way of testing. It is a different style of testing. But let's say that you lived 2 hours from a testing center. This does happen. We're in a big country, and there are cases where people are living or working in an area that is many hours away from a testing center. Of course, you're going to take the exam online. is certainly where you would go to take the exam online. So always, it's going to be dependent on your particular situation. Just be prepared for what the issues might be during the exam. For those of you taking your exam online, I highly recommend you go to Reddit, into the CompTIA subreddit. It is really the best place to go to read people's exam experiences. And just so you're aware, they're very good at moderating that particular forum. And the CompTIA subreddit, people are not telling you what's on their exam. They're not giving away the questions, which, by the way, you are not allowed to do. You sign a document at the beginning of your exam called the candidate agreement. It's a non-disclosure agreement, and you're not allowed to disclose anything about your exam. But on that exam, what's great about this setup on Reddit is you can get people's experiences, and they will tell you, I had an online exam. Here's how I set up the room. Here's what happened, and I had to send them pictures. And even the case that there was something on the exam that happened, and they'll tell you, here's what happened to me that caused them to tell me to not do that anymore, whether it's talking or leaning down or whatever it happens to be. So that's why I tell people to just be ready, just be knowledgeable about the process. And then when that happens on the exam and you lean out of here or you're talking or you put your hand over your mouth, they say, don't do that. You're like, oh yeah, you're right. Sorry. And then it's no big deal. It's not an abrupt thing. You're not suddenly, why are they telling me that to put my hand on my mouth? What's that about? Now I'm not even thinking about my exam anymore. Now my stress level's gone up. Now I'm not going to pass. See what this does to yourself? You don't want to be neurotic like me. You don't want to have this be a problem on your exam. So be prepared for it. Just be ready for it. And I think that makes a big difference when you're taking your exam. I think that's an important consideration. I would probably do an online exam if there wasn't such a good testing center that was nearby to me. Because I would go to the test. I still would go to the testing center given my particular environment. However, if that testing center, let's figure this out. How far away would a testing center have to be before I would decide, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to take it at home. For me, it's distance. And I think the testing center that is near me, I think is about 10 minutes away. It's just really convenient. 10 minutes is good. 30 minutes, would I do 30 minutes? I have done 30 minutes. There's a community college in town that has a fantastic testing center, and I had to take a test there. It's about 30 minutes away from me. That's probably about the max. After 30 minutes, I would probably think, I want to do this online now. I think that's my number two. Other people in the chat room going, yeah, 30 minutes is about right. I think that's what I would do too. So that's my opinion of the advantages and or disadvantages of taking a test either in a testing center or online. Just make sure you're aware of it, you're familiar with it, you're comfortable with the situation. I think you'd be okay. Yep, some folks in the chat room are telling their own stories. During my Security Plus exam, I was told to take my hand off of my mouth. Absolutely. That's a very common one. You can't sit here. You can't do this. I wonder what the answer to that question is. Can't talk. Don't put your hand in your mouth. Stop doing that. So that's why I would also tell people, be very careful with that. You don't want it to throw anything. Throw your whole thought process. Don't let that get in your way for those. For the folks asking about vouchers on my website at professormesser.com/vouchers, we'll go to that website so you can see what the heck I am talking about. One of the things on this voucher site that you may have noticed is that these vouchers, unfortunately, are only good for the United States, Canada, Puerto Rico, and Guam. Right now, I don't have there's no easy way for me to offer vouchers for other countries at this point. It's mostly an issue with making sure the currencies that you're using are something that I can take. There's a whole problem here with doing it. I guess I could do it if everything was on cryptocurrency, but it's not. We haven't quite hit that tipping point for crypto quite yet. That would solve a lot of problems for online retailers, got to tell you, but not an option for what we're doing with the vouchers at the moment. And although I don't take Doge, I do take a lot of other, like 14 different cryptocurrencies that I do take for other products on my site. Actually, I'm not sure. Am I taking crypto for this? I'm going to step through. Let me make sure I'm not logged in as somebody else right now. So you see that during that purchase process. Oh, I do. So during the login, you can either do a credit card or a cryptocurrency. So, and there's about 14 different cryptos that are supported there. However, the process for registering your voucher, if you get a voucher from me, it will only work if you are physically located in the U.S., Canada, Puerto Rico, Guam, and some other outlying territories of the U.S. It does not, you cannot buy it, even with the cryptocurrency, you cannot buy it from my site and then use it from another country. CompTIA does not allow you to do that. So you have to physically be in that country, whether you are taking it at a testing center or taking it online, just so you're aware. So that's why. Some folks in the chat room are also talking about the academic store. And you may have noticed right at the top of this page, I think this is so important if you're a college student, you can buy vouchers at the academic CompTIA store. Now, why is that useful? Well, let's find out. I'm going to click that link and we're going to bring up the academic store. The academic store, let's look at a certification voucher from the academic store for A+. The A+ vouchers are $109 US. That's effectively a 50% discount. That's a pretty big discount to be able to do that. So the only way you can use these is if you are a student that is in classes. It goes through a verification process in the U.S. or Canada. I think those are the two. And they give the details on how these are used. I don't buy these vouchers, so I don't know how they're used to have this here. Let's see. You have to the eligibility. You can only place a single product. You can only buy 4 vouchers and 6 digital products in a 6-month period. Your total lifetime purchases is 10. So they're a little bit of restrictive on it because these are discounted so heavily. And it says, doesn't matter if you have an EDU email, we're going to validate it in a different way when you purchase. So that's what that's about. That's why people are talking about the academic discount, because it's so big, it's so good, that you would want to use that if at all possible. And I want you to use it too. That's why at the very top, I tell you, don't buy it here. When's the last time somebody's going to tell you that? Don't buy it from me. Go to the academic store. Unfortunately, not everybody has that flexibility. So if that doesn't fit you, you can always go down and just purchase it directly from there. So that's what that's about. Yep, if you've already graduated, you can't use the discount. So sorry. That's just how it works for those discounts. And it only works for US, Canada, and those places. So that's how that works. You don't submit unofficial transcript. You don't do anything. You just say where you're in school. There's an entire process on the back end that looks it up. Your school has to participate in the system that's able to validate that you are an actual student. You never see this happening on the backside, but they check all of that. So it's great to have all of that there. If you're someone who's really working through and trying to figure out where's the best place to go for vouchers and you're a student, that is the best place to go to vouchers. Now, where do you buy vouchers in the EU? So there's another good question is, okay, outside of the US, you would need to find a CompTIA partner that is either selling them in your particular country, or you would need to buy them directly from Pearson Vue. So that's your options. Every country is a little bit different. Every country has a different set of partners. You would just have to do a little bit of research on your side to figure that out. Might save you some money. So a good thing to use. And if it doesn't apply to you, you've still got all the vouchers on my site. So, and those are already discounted. The A+ voucher, for example, currently on my site, instead of $239, it's $215. So there is a discount associated with these, $24 discount. If you went to this Pearson Vue website, it'd be $239. If you come to my website, you can save almost $25, $24 on the A+. That's what that is. So that's those were so, and that's the real key, is figuring out the details of this. Another question. This is a good one. Somebody mentioned, what if you lose internet connectivity in the middle of an exam? Well, this does happen, and they are ready for it. There are times when it is very temporary. It might be for a few seconds, and that's okay. Now, if they are monitoring your sound and audio, your audio and video in real time. So that one is, of course, they're going to watch and suddenly realize, wait, where'd you go 5 seconds? Oh, you're back. You know, in those cases, they probably will not even send you a note. They probably won't even put anything in the chat. They're probably not even going to tell you there's an issue because it went away for a second, now you're back. But if it goes away for a minute, for 2 minutes, for 5 minutes, for 15 minutes, well, then they're going to have to figure out what to do. And I think they have a process on their side where they can either decide to, it's so early on in the exam that they can scrap it and give you another voucher, or if it's later on in the exam, they can grade it. And if you passed, you're done. And if you didn't pass, I don't know what they do. Do they still give you a voucher to try it again? I don't know. So I'm not sure. I think it's more of a case-by-case basis, and I'm sure they have some criteria they follow, but they don't tell us what that criteria is. But they're ready for it. They know that that's the type of thing that can happen. So that's not a big deal. They'll figure it out as they go through it. I think that's a very common problem. It's a common problem for me. It's got to be a common problem for other people as well. If you're anywhere else in the world and you need vouchers, you're going to have to find a partner in your country or buy the vouchers directly on the Pearson Vue website. That's really my best recommendation for you when you're working through them. Let's take some more questions. I haven't even put up my lower third because I will take your questions. Let's do that. Let me bring up this so that you know where I'm taking questions from. If you're already on YouTube and watching the YouTube video and there's that chat next to YouTube, this is the chat I'm looking at. If you're on my website on the live page, there's an embedded chat. That embedded chat is the same chat as YouTube. It's the YouTube chat that I'm embedding. So if you're on YouTube and you're typing things in the chat, that's what I can see. If you're on my website and you have a chat just below the video, that's the one I can see. It's the same chat. So I can take your questions. You're able to put any questions in there, and we can talk about, figure out, ruminate over, decide what the proper answers would be. We'll figure it out as we go through. Some folks are saying in fact, I've heard this as well, on the actual exam, you have these performance-based questions at the beginning of the exam. We did one earlier today. It was a matching question. And on your exam, it could be drag and drop. There could be other ways to implement that question on your exam. But there are certain times people have said where they got their performance-based questions and they couldn't move things around the screen. For whatever reason, on their particular system, it tends to be mostly people who are on Mac OS, but not exclusively, that in Mac OS, they were not able to move things around the screen. And that may be something that is based on the restrictions of the Mac OS operating system. In Windows, I don't tend to hear people saying that. So if you have the ability to take this exam on Windows, that might be a better experience for you. Oddly enough, ironically enough, Mac OS would not be the better experience. I think that's probably based around this system that Pearson Vue uses that as you're working through it, it locks down your system. It locks down the computer. Well, for those of you that are already running Mac OS, you know that Mac OS is looking for that kind of event because it could indicate malware on your system. So effectively, the Pearson Vue app and Mac OS fight with each other because Mac OS says you shouldn't be able to take over someone's system. That's a recipe for disaster. They're not wrong. Pearson Vue says, no, I have to take over the system because this is an exam and I can't have you alt-tabbing out to a browser and looking up things. It makes sense. So Mac OS is absolutely supported. Pearson Vue says it's supported. It is listed as something that is supported. If you run the test app on your Mac OS device, it will pass. It all works great, except we have these results that people are having problems with performance-based questions. So even though they say it should work, I'm not so sure that it should work. I think Windows 10 is probably your best bet for the exam. If I had to choose a Windows to take an exam like this, I would choose the Windows 10. And generally, they do not let you take the exam in a VM. The application that locks down your system, generally, from the results that I've seen, have failed when somebody's tried to run this in a VM. So that's not going to work for you either. If you have the ability, if you have an older Apple system and you can physically reboot into a Windows environment, technically that is a VM, but it's a different type of VM. That is a sort of booting up into Windows in Boot Camp is a good option for doing that. But Mac OS just fights with that application. Mac OS is there fighting for you and thinking, oh, this app's trying to take over your system. I'm not going to let it get to you. And you're like, no, Mac, this is a test. No, it isn't. It's a bad guy. There's your problem. Now, on your more recent Mac OS systems that are not running on the Intel platform, Boot Camp is not an option. You can't boot into Boot Camp. Doesn't exist any longer. So for those of you, for my old system that I have in front of me, I have this old system from like 3 years ago, maybe 4 now. That system would work great for Boot Camp because it's an Intel-based system. I have a newer laptop. It's not the one that's here, but I have a different laptop, a newer one. That is the M1 laptop. That's not Mac. That's not Intel-based, so Boot Camp won't work on that one. And hopefully someday we're going to swap this out. I've already ordered a new Mac for the studio, but there's nobody working in Shanghai. They're all out of the office, so they're all stuck at home. So there's no Apple technology really leaking out of there very quickly right now. So I'm on sort of a long month-to-month wait to get any new equipment. But when that gets here, I won't be able to use Boot Camp anymore, which makes me a little sad. I have to do everything virtually. But for me, I rarely go into Boot Camp anymore. If you're a Mac OS user, especially on the newer platforms, you should be using Parallels. Parallels is just the best virtualization platform for Mac OS right now. It just seamlessly works. It's beautiful. You just can't use VMs for your exam. That's the only bad part. So that's the challenge, is making that happen. So hopefully that's something you can think about. It is an important consideration. You don't want to have your exam go badly. You only have so much time, and as you're troubleshooting it and trying to make it work, that's taking time away from your exam. The clock doesn't stop. If you have to reboot your computer, the clock doesn't stop. It just keeps going. So that's why. Is Boot Camp part of the A+ objectives anymore? I believe, I want to say that it is. I'm not to that point yet. I'm not to the 1102. I've already built the content. I want to say it's in there because A+ exam is not about teaching you the latest and greatest technologies only. Like the only thing you will ever find on the A+ is the newest and greatest. No. The A+ exam is going to teach you on what you could expect to find if you walk into an enterprise right now. And I guarantee you there are plenty of Mac OS systems running in enterprises that are still Intel-based systems that will be using Boot Camp. So it makes sense that you would need to know about that. That's something people send to me all the time and say, why are they still asking us questions about filling in this technology? And I say the reason they still ask you is it's still out there. You're still opening boxes. You're still opening computers and going, whoa, a blast from the past. Look at this PATA drive that's in here. It happens all the time. As we slowly evolve our hardware out, things slowly drop off of the A+ exam. I think this latest version of the A+ is a good example of that. But you run into old technologies all the time, especially on networking, especially on A+. Not necessarily on something like Security Plus. There are some older technologies, but security tends to move much faster. It's not solely based on hardware. The Security Plus exam is not a hardware exam, so you still run into that. But you find old technologies in the data center all the time. These servers we install, they rarely get removed. So that's a really good example. Of course you're going to find PATA. Of course you're going to find these old memory types. Of course you're going to find, as Colin in the chat room says, of course you're going to find Windows XP. It's still running out there. Forget Windows 7. Windows XP is still running in places. This is normal for some reason in some environments. It's not that it's everywhere, but occasionally you run into that, and you need to know what to do when that happens. So that's why I tell people that that's the case. Conversely, SCSI is really, really good SCSI is one of those examples of a technology that was very much physical, and now it is more virtual. Practically all the virtual drives you're going to use are SCSI drives. It's not a real SCSI drive, it's a virtual SCSI drive, but it uses SCSI as the protocol to be able to transfer data in and out of that drive. So I would argue with you, we can have an argument, right, that SCSI is probably the most used storage type compared to PATA and SATA that you will find. I think SCSI is probably the #1 by total amount of usage, by total number of drives connected, that I think SCSI fits into that scenario. And it's because it is has such longevity in the industry, and it's so powerful. It works perfectly for virtualization. So why wouldn't we use it? I think it's probably #1 on the list. SATA probably 2 on the list. Now M.2 is making a big push. M.2 seems to be everywhere. So these things change dynamically. The problem is you've still got the older technology still running. So we seem to be, this was a problem with the last A+, is they keep adding on new technologies as we keep doing it. But you, the folks studying, said, wait, this is way too much to memorize. Why are we putting all of this stuff in the exam? And one of the things I noticed on the new A+ is they pared down that list quite a bit. That first exam is a much smaller exam now for it to be there. And I think that's good. But there's still things you have to know. You still have to know your port numbers. You still have to know about some of these technologies. You can't get away from it. So that's one of those cases. You have to know the differences between all those. You will run into them. Somebody will say, go fix this. Here you go. And you can't say, well, I'm going to need to Google this. I'll know what I'm looking at. That's okay. This isn't for you. We need to go find somebody who knows what they're doing. That's the situation you need to be in, is you need to look at go, oh, wow, using these old PATA drives, huh? Maybe we should upgrade you. That's something that you should instantly be able to see and be able to work through. Okay, we're still taking questions in the chat room. Feel free to put your questions in, professormesser.com/live. You're welcome to have your question thrown in there. I'll be able to see if we can get an answer for the things you're looking at. I mentioned about traveling and taking your exam. Sakshay in the chat room, I traveled 3 hours and passed my Security Plus today. So congratulations. First, why did you drive or travel 3 hours? I guess it didn't have to be a drive. You could have taken a train or something. But why did you travel 3 hours? Was that your only choice? Why didn't you take it online? Maybe you didn't want to, but I'm interested in knowing why. What is the 3 hours? Why were you willing? I'm assuming it was an hour and a half one way and an hour and a half back. Why did you decide to do it that way? I'd love to get the story. I think we all would like to know the story of that. So if you want to put that in the chat, we'll have a conversation about it. Along those same lines, Jordan asks, how is Security Plus graded? If a question requires 3 answers and you only get 2 correct, do you completely fail that question? Or do you get 2 out of 3 points? Do you get 2/3 of the points? How does that work? Oh, I'm glad you asked. The answer is, we don't know. The answer is there's no way to tell. CompTIA does not share anything about the grading process. Well, I shouldn't say anything. They generally do not share anything about the grading process. There's very little information available about what they consider to be a correct answer and a wrong answer. But on their website, specifically on the section that talks about the performance-based question frequently asked questions, the Department of Redundancy Department, there is a question on here that asks, is partial credit given if I answer part of a performance-based question correctly? CompTIA says maybe. They say there may be questions for which partial credit is offered. However, exam questions and their scoring are confidential, so no further information can be provided regarding which questions may offer partial credit. So it's a way of saying maybe you will, maybe you won't. We're not going to tell you. So I know that doesn't help very, very much. I guess it sort of helps, Because what I would like to think is happening, Jordan, is that in the cases where it makes sense to give partial credit, they give partial credit. I think that's what they're really trying to tell us, if I'm reading between the lines. This answer used to say something not very different. It used to be different. It used to say that it was rare. They use the word rare. They would say it rarely they will provide partial credit. I've noticed that they've changed the wording so that they took out the word rare. So that's what kind of it encourages me that perhaps it is no longer an unusual event, but in fact, something they do normally. But here's the thing. If you get partial credit on a question, you will never know. If you don't get partial credit on a question, you will never know, because they don't give you a summary question by question of how many points you got on each question. They don't tell you that. You don't have access to that. You'll never know that. So whether they give you partial credit or not doesn't matter to you, because you will never know. And that's why I tell people, don't worry about partial credit. Don't worry about how they grade it. Don't even worry about the grading score. Only worry about if the word passed comes up at the end. Passed or failed. That's all you need to worry about. Don't worry about the stuff you don't have any control over. It's going to be that way whether you know about it or not. The important part is just to do the best you can, answer every question to the best of your ability. The final score is going to be the final score, whatever it happens to be. And you can't control how they grade it. So don't worry about it. Don't spin your cycles on that one. Spin your cycles on cloud-based technology and security. Spin your cycles on security policy. Spin your cycles on understanding non-disclosure agreements. Spin your cycles on encryption protocols. Don't worry about the grading. That's something you don't have to worry about. That's not your thing. I think that's the important part of this, is don't worry about how they're going to grade things. It ultimately doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. More questions. This is a good one, and I think it's worth talking about because I have this much experience on this particular issue. I at least have some industry experience on this one. The question from Luis in the chat room: I just got an invoice scam. Apparently, somebody sent Luis an invoice for something he did not purchase, but now they expect a check from him. So that's definitely a scam. Thank you for purchasing all of this paper from Dunder Mifflin. Here's where you can send us the check. It's a common scam. I talk about it in the Security Plus course. But Luis says he wants to take it a step further. He says, I would like to open the attachment in a virtual machine or sandbox to go deeper into it to discover what kind of malicious action they were trying to do. How do I do that? Well, the first thing I will tell you and anybody else who is asking about this, don't do that. Just don't. Just don't do it. There are so many places for that to go wrong for someone who has not been through the proper training to handle viruses and malware that I would highly recommend that you don't even go down that road. There are a number of things that really should be in place, that really have to be in place to protect yourself, and things you may not have even thought about as to how these types of worms and malware propagate themselves, that you really need a very specially built lab for this. I'm sort of bringing this to you from a perspective of a systems engineer who has worked for a major antivirus company. I used to work for, at the time, it was Network Associates, now known as McAfee. It was previously known as McAfee, and then now it's known as McAfee, but there was a spot in the middle where it was called Network Associates. I was a systems engineer who was trained and certified by McAfee on their malware products, their antivirus products, their firewalls, their intrusion detection and prevention, their encryption technologies, PGP, the whole thing. So I am familiar with the process they went through to manage and control viruses. There is an industry standard for this. There is a certification they have to follow for how viruses are handled. And they would not even they would not allow us engineers in the field to have any access to any of the viruses. that would be a recipe for disaster. I have to agree. Not because I think I would be bad with that, but imagine having hundreds and hundreds of engineers. It only takes one person to do something wrong, and now suddenly your systems are infected. So that's an important consideration. So what would you do instead with this? There are a number of things you can do. Now, if you think it's malicious and there's something bad and you would like to have it scanned, there's lots of things you can do to go through that process. Let me bring up a few different links on my site. The one that is the go-to, the one that is the one that I always go to, and I think the industry sort of goes here as well, is over to VirusTotal. VirusTotal is a site where you can upload a file. It will run it through all of the most well-known virus scanners, and it will give you a result of this. Let me find a file that we can use. Let's try this, shall we? I'm going to find a file. I know which one I'm going to use just so we can get our hands on it. It's going to be a zip file, I think. Where's my downloads? I'm going to download a file that we are going to use for this. It's a .com file. It's not going to be compressed. How can I do this? Let's right mouse click, download linked file, boom, and put it on my system. So I'm going to upload a file to VirusTotal. I love we're doing this in real time because it is just a mess making this happen. So I've downloaded a file that I want to use for this, and I'm going to click a few things on my site because we're going to download this. So here I want to show you the screen. Here we are, VirusTotal, and it says choose a file. And can I drag and drop? Because that would be great. I don't know if it's going to pop open my file system. So it does pop open my file system. So on my file system, I don't want you to see this. So I'm going to click the file that I'm going to upload, which is this file. And it turns out this file was already scanned 4 minutes ago. So it doesn't have to go through a formal scan. So we're going to take a scan from 4 minutes ago for this file. This file, how does it know that I uploaded a file from 4 minutes ago? It has a hash right at the top that says this hash of this file matches a hash we just did. So it's got to be the same file. And it's a file called icar.com. icar.com. So for those of you familiar with the antivirus world of things, icar is a file that shows up in malware as an actual malware document, but it's actually a text file. It's a test file that's used. This is the contents of an icar file. That's it right there on the screen. It's just a text file. But in every antivirus software, this file is flagged to always show as a virus. So it's a way to check and make sure that the virus is one that is, your virus scanner is one that's operating properly. And in this example, which I thought was pretty interesting, all of these antivirus and anti-malware systems, can we make this bigger? Yes, we can. There they are. So it's ran through antivirus called Adaware, Alibaba, Archibit, Avast, Bitdefender. You've probably heard these. Fortinet, McAfee, Microsoft, Panda, Super Anti-Spyware, Semantic Mobile Insight, Trend Micro. These are names you've probably heard before. So it has gone through and tested these files, and in almost every case, it comes back and says, yeah, that's a virus. So if you have a file where you just don't know, is this malicious? And you want to check it on your local antivirus, and your local antivirus tells you it's either yes or no malicious. But wouldn't it be nice to be able to check all of these different antivirus engines to see what every antivirus engine thinks? That would be key. That would be ideal to have this in a matter of minutes, know what all of these different systems really think. It's interesting that some of these came back as undetected. How can F-Secure and Acronis and Yandex and Kings, how can these come back as undetected? Every antivirus is supposed to detect the iCar file every single time. So that's interesting that they do not show anything there. If you ever want to have an antivirus message pop up on somebody's system, just send them an iCar file and it will pop up. They're like, why'd you send me virus? I didn't send you a virus. I just wanted it to have a message pop up on your screen. It's the iCar file that did it. Now, this also goes through, once you upload the file and it goes through the scan, it gives you a detail about the scan or about the file and everything it did when it first saw the file. It first saw this file in October of 2005. That's how long. iCar's been around well before that. And it gives you a summary of IP addresses that were contacted for this. In this case, this were all servers running on their own system. But if there was more, it would tell you exactly what was scanned. Gives you information about the scans. What the behavior was. What did this malware do when it ran? Assuming it was malware. It will tell you everything it did or didn't do on your system and what modules were there. And then lastly, you've got information in here about what people have said about the files that they have uploaded, which is really useful if you have a PDF, being able to use that. To get an iCar file, it is spelled E-I-C-A-R, iCar. I got it from iCar.org. It's a great place to get your iCar file. That is where you should go for the iCar. Make it happen. The thing about running this is really useful, and that's why I tell you this is what you should do. Now, back to the original European Institute for Computer Antivirus Research is iCar. That's where the term comes from. So for those of you asking about that, EICAR.org is this website. It's where you get it from. I think that is the most amount of virus you should be messing with. Now, if you want to be in an environment with a lab, there is an entire process that you should be setting up. This is more of a computer science question. These are developers and antivirus researchers behind the scenes that have labs that are set up this way. If I was going to set one up, it would be on a system that was either air-gapped and had no connectivity to anything in the world, or it would be a VM that had no networking configured on it at all. So it had no way to talk to anything else at all. So it's basically the same thing as an air-gapped system. But even that doesn't necessarily guarantee safety. There are vulnerabilities or have been vulnerabilities in the past with certain virtual systems that allowed a guest running on that VM to break out of the guest and gain access to the hypervisor. So although we don't know of any of those vulnerabilities that are active today, the case has been obviously demonstrated in the past that it's possible. And that's why I tell people to be extremely careful when working with files that you know to be malicious. It can easily escape the lab and easily be an issue. So that's why I tell people just don't do it. If you are interested in that, there are lots of programs online and in training classes that you could go to where you can learn to be a virus researcher. And they go through the best practices for protecting yourself when working with these really, really bad and nasty files. You have to be extremely careful. We sort of don't even think about that side of things on the research side, but these viruses and malware, they are really smart. They are very good at circumventing security. They're very good at hiding themselves. It's not something you want to play around with. You need to have a very good strategy. So that's why I say I think the idea is a good one, Luis. I think the idea of really running through and being more familiar with what is this doing behind the scenes, it's not a bad idea. I like where you're coming from with that. I think it would be better to follow antivirus researchers on YouTube and watch their videos of them doing it, which, by the way, is fascinating. There are some really good researchers out there. They'll grab an executable. They will take the entire thing and run it through their software to decompile it, and then look at the machine language to see what is it doing and where is it going and how does it work. Really fascinating stuff. And if you have a chance to look at some of those, you might actually learn something behind the scenes. I do every time I watch them because I'm not that person. I'm not on the computer science side. I'm not interested in doing the coding. I certainly am not well versed in machine language. Not my gig, not my thing. So I've just never worked on that side. I like the IT side. So, but if you are someone who's interested in that side, you want to learn more about researching, I think YouTube's really your best place to go, and much safer than you trying to run this yourself and break it down. That's my recommendation. It's really more coming to you from a position of, I don't want anything bad to happen to you. Not that I don't think you're smart enough to do it. You're absolutely smart enough to do this, but get the right training before you do it. That's all I ask. I think that's the important part. Other questions. Let's go back to the chat room and see what other questions is there. These are the challenges. Yeah, somebody in the chat room is talking about a situation where they were phished for details specifically about their personal identification number to gain access. In the chat room, this person says they fell for a scam. They were posting on Facebook Marketplace, got a message saying they should text them. So there they got your phone number. They told me to send them the PIN they sent me to verify the post was legitimate. Oh, that's a good one. And I was so excited to sell the item. I sent them the personal identification number. Turns out they set up Google Voice with my phone number. That was the scam. Now your phone number is in Google Voice. There's a whole mess now. How do you unravel this? So never send anybody anything in a chat or text. Never send anybody anything where they're asking for a personal identification number. It's never right. It's never correct. I'm concerned that the challenge with the scams that we see, I see it really extensively leaking over into job hunting. You post your resume on ZipRecruiter, on LinkedIn Jobs, on whatever your favorite place is to go, on dice.com, whatever you use to post your resume. And these scammers will immediately start trying to get access to you. They want to use fake check scams. You don't know what a fake check scam is? Go look it up. It's a good one. Where they send you a check. They have you welcome aboard. Here's a check to get your home office running. Whatever you don't use, you send back to us. Why? Well, as it turns out, you deposit it. They send you $2,000. You use $1,000 of it for your home office. You send them $1,000 back, and then the check bounces and you're out $1,000. That's how the fake check scam works. Happens all the time. And it turns out there was no job. They were just wanting to get $1,000 out of you. That's what that is. So you have to be extremely diligent when setting up appointments. These are places, they take you through an entire interview process and none of it's real. The stories about this are remarkable. Be very careful when doing any type of interviews. It is a constant challenge right now. They are very good at this. Never, ever, ever take a check from someone who is bringing you on board. Doesn't work that way. I've worked at many companies. All of them have you pay for it, and then you submit an expense report. That's how it works. Then you're never out any money. I guess it could be a fake job, but you just return what you've bought. And they don't get it. So that's the important part. But this is an enormous problem now if you're trying to get a job. How do you know the people you're talking to are legitimate? And so you have to do a lot more due diligence on your side to make sure that the people you're talking to are legitimate, that the job you're asking about is legitimate, that you have some type of verification process, that it's a company in your area, you know someone who works there. You know, there's got to be something that you can link this together. Be very careful when doing all of this. They would love to get that $1,000 out of you, $1,000 plus. You know, some of these can be very, very, very bad. This is my biggest concern with family members, because you know that they're being called. I got a call in the middle of this study group that is most certainly it's a local number from my area code, but it is from a place, a city, because your phone tells you what city that particular exchange is from, and it's from a city that's hours from me. I don't know anybody who lives there. There's no reason anyone there would call me. That was a scam. Or that was somebody wanting to tell me about getting a maintenance plan for my car or some other nonsense that somebody in the chat room immediately, Colin says, oh, my car's extended warranty is expired. That's right. That's exactly the scam they were working on. And they're getting better. They're doing a lot more texting these days. I noticed the texting has changed from you need to contact us immediately because something bad has happened, or we're going to turn off your power, or I'm from the IRS and I'm here to arrest you. Now the text messages today, the text messages are, hey, I didn't see you at the party. That's all they send. And then you engage with them. Oh, I wasn't at a party. Who is this? New phone, who dis? You know, that is how they get you, and they kind of hook you in. Like, that's the new one. And it's sort of the slow burn. And they go, yeah, I was at the party. We were talking about cybersecurity. Bob was telling us that he doubled his money in 24 hours. I just did it, and it worked great. Are you going to get in on this? All we need is $1,000. Scam. Scam. So that's what you have to watch out for, is those things. What a remarkable pain to have this. I think it may have been KE4RIT in the chat room was mentioning back here that there was an ICOM HF transceiver right there. Is that the 747? I think it is. It's an old one, like a 747 GX. It's old. It's super old, but runs like a champ. I bought that at a government auction from a bad guy. Not from the bad guy. The government got it from the bad guy. I got it in Miami. I got two of them from a government auction. I got that. Is that a Yaesu? It's a Yaesu 747 GX. I have another ICOM that is that I also got at the same auction. And they were like, at the time, this was 20. It was like year 2001, 2002. It was just after Andrew, so maybe 2002. And Hurricane Andrew came through, and we all realized, wow, we're going to need something to communicate. And that's when I got amateur radio license, so I could at least communicate with people when all of the infrastructure falls away. And it works like a champ. So, but I got my extra license. I don't get on as much as I would like to these days. I want to do some of the online stuff where I can use somebody else's system online. That way I don't have to set up antennas. I don't have to get my HF running. My power supply's down there somewhere. We know how it works. My SWR, can't get the SWR right. There's all these problems. But yes, for those of you, I'm 73s from AG40X. So that's what that is. This is where I think if you're somebody who is already in the mindset that these scams exist, they're just sort of pushed away. We don't even think about them. But these problems is that they get people involved and take their money. And I've already told everybody in my house, here's how they work. We sit around the dinner table and I say, here's the bad stuff. Here's what they're going after. And we all talk about, yeah, I got one of those today. This one says, I wonder if I can find one of these text messages that came through. I bet I can, because I keep them around because they are hilarious. We talk about them at the end of the day. The problem is that I've told everybody to text me. So I have to scroll, delete this, et cetera, et cetera. There's my Yahoo number constantly going on. I wish I had the one that, oh, here it is. So here's one. Very simple, very straightforward. It just says, hi, how's it going? That's all it says from a phone number that's nowhere even remotely similar to what I would know. Hi, how's it going? Scammer. That's somebody wanting thousands of dollars out of me in some type of crypto scam, most certainly. Nope. All my crypto money is stuck somewhere else. You can't have it. You can't have that one. It's painfully, it's so much less than what it was 3 months ago anyway. You don't want it. That doesn't work for you. We're waiting for it to come back up. We could have a whole conversation about cryptocurrency. And is it right? Is it wrong? Does it work? Is it a scam? Is it a bunch of people? For someone who takes, who is on the internet, I take orders internationally. Cryptocurrency is just an amazing thing for us. It is a great enabler. I wish I could figure out how to make it work with the vouchers in other countries, but there's another limitation there. If it was just my materials, it would be different. But that's kind of how it works. It's kind of how those things break down. Other questions from the chat room. We've got other things. Oh, by the way, also Jeff in the chat room. I think I may have missed another one up here earlier. I need to go back and see if you sent a super chat previously in the study group. I might have missed that one go by. There was a lot happening, and I apologize right now if I let one of those slip by. I certainly did not mean to do that, and thank you so much for your support. Jeff in the chat rooms, I did catch that one. $10 super chat. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff says, passed my A+ on Tuesday, received a job offer today with a managed service provider. That's pretty strong. This Wednesday. It's the day after that. It took a day. What took you so long? Will be my first ever job in IT. Thanks, Professor Messer. Looking forward to studying for the Network Plus and Security Plus. Yet next, those are good choices. Those are excellent choices. I think if you're going to work for a managed service provider or really do anything in IT, I think getting some type of knowledge on the network is critical. Whether that's Network Plus or CCNA or any one of the many other certifications that are out there, those are great certifications to have. Everything touches the network. Everything revolves around what's happening on the network. It is an important set of skills to have regardless of what you do in IT. What cloud vendor certification would you recommend? Oh, there is a broad question, and I will give you the industry's favorite answer. It depends. The challenge you have with cloud vendors, it is very competitive. It's super competitive. Amazon was the big monster from years back. Still is a big monster from years back. Tons of Amazon stuff out there. Difficult to use, challenging to use, relatively speaking. It is not the easiest thing to understand. And if you've ever looked at the Amazon login page, let me see if I can log into my AWS just to give you a feel for this. I'm going to sign into the console. For those of you that were asking earlier, I do have different passwords that are randomized for every single site. It's just a random bunch of stuff. So that's why those of you, and I got to bring up my Authy to do the one-time password. One moment, please. I think I have that in Authy. Yes, I do. So I have one-time passwords that have to go in. Do not require a one-time password in this browser, which I click, but it doesn't matter. I'm clicking it anyway, though. It still asks me every time, but I'm clicking it. It's like the closed door button in an elevator. Well, it seems like it should do something, right? No, it probably does not. But if you look at all of their services that they have on AWS, I'm just going to bring up a subset. Well, let me see if I can click and just go to a page. Here's all services on AWS. Here we go. Starting with Activate for startups, Alexa for business, Amazon Web Services Amplify, a gateway, an app mesh, Athena, auto scaling, finally getting to the B's, batch, billing, budgets, bracket, chatbot. There's a chatbot for AWS, Cloud9, CloudFront, Cloud Shell, Cloud Search, Cloud Trail, Cloud Watch, Cloud everything, Code Build, Code Commit, Code Deploy, Code Star. We're just in the C's. These are all services provided in the Amazon cloud. And I'm just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Where do you even start? No single person could ever be knowledgeable in all of those services. And that's why you kind of have to pick and choose the niches for you to be able to break that down. Now, that's just Amazon. Now, if you go over to Microsoft, Azure has a nice market share and growing. They're taking market share away from others. So Microsoft Azure is certainly one of the big heavy hitters in this industry. That would be another good set of certifications to have. But which one do you choose? Do you go with Amazon? Do you go with Microsoft? Anytime you sit down and take a certification, you're talking about months of your time. You're talking about a lot of energy, of studying, all going into this effort. This is a multi-month process to be able to earn these certifications. So the question now becomes different. And it's really the question that should apply to everybody for any certification you want to get. And I get these questions all the time. People say, hey, I just got my Security Plus. What do I do next? I don't know. Why are you even asking me? I should be asking you, what are you doing next? That's how this is supposed to work, because I'm not you. I don't know what your goals are. I don't know what you would like your career to look like. I don't know what interests you. And I don't know what employers in your area are using, which is perhaps even most important. If you look at job postings in your area, are they all asking for Amazon knowledge? Are they all asking for Azure knowledge? Are they all asking for Office 365 knowledge? Are they all asking for Rackspace Cloud knowledge? There's lots of clouds out there. Pick the cloud. There could be 10 different clouds people are using. So the one that you should be studying for is probably the one that most employers in your area are asking for in jobs that seem to apply to you. So I think that's the real key, is finding the jobs out there, figuring out what they would like you to have, and then using that information to help you make a decision about what you want to do. So that's what your best process is. If you come to me and say, which one do I take? I don't know, Amazon. How about that? Take Amazon. But what if all the employers in your area would like you to have Azure? So my knowledge of this is pointless. It's worthless, actually. My opinion of what you should do, well, I wouldn't say worthless, but I can give you a handful of things that most people in the industry are looking at. That's an easy one. But it's probably better if you go with what people in your area would like you to have and then go with that. You know, if you're working at the government level, they may have an emphasis in one or the other. If you're working for an individual corporation, a private company, they probably have a cloud provider they like to use. Figure out what that provider is, see what they're asking for in their job postings. That's the one you should get. It shouldn't lead you completely 100% down that road, but it should certainly give you the perspective of, look at all these jobs out there. How many of them want Amazon? How many of them want Microsoft? Should I take that into consideration? Yes, I should. And then you have to make the decision on how much consideration you take. That's what I would do. How should I get my feet wet with Active Directory? Well, you can do it a number of different ways. There are on Azure, you could set up an entire Active Directory infrastructure on Azure. You might even be able to do that for free. You know, they give you a certain tier up to a certain point, and it's free. They may be able to do that free on Active Directory. I have one set up here in a virtual environment because Microsoft will give you a 180-day evaluation version of Windows Server. So you can install Windows Server on your own VM, load it up, enable Active Directory, configure the DNS, do all the things you have to do to get that system running, and then build another VM of a Windows machine that then connects to and is installed into the Active Directory environment. So you can get the evaluation of Microsoft Server. Let's see if this works. Microsoft Server evaluation. And Google brings you up with standard edition Microsoft Evaluation Center. That sounds like where I want to be, doesn't it? So here is the Evaluation Center for Microsoft. Start your evaluation today. I sure will, Microsoft. And right here, Windows Server 2022. I just installed this the other day because you have to do it for A+. Not that you have to do it for A+, but I have to demonstrate Active Directory. You have to know Active Directory for the new A+. So if you click on Windows Server, it says, all right, what do you want to download? Go do it. And they even have options to try it on Azure. Can you do that? What's it cost? We're just going to click things. How's that sound? Try Windows Server in the cloud with an Azure free account. That'd be worth trying out. Or you can download from their download page. This is what I did. I just downloaded an ISO and installed it myself. Although they even have a VHD ready to go. The drive's already built for you. to do that. It installs very quickly in a matter of minutes. Your troubleshooting of DNS will take significantly longer. There's your warning. I'm already telling you, if you're installing this for the first time, you're installing the Windows Server, you're also going to be doing some DNS troubleshooting. Just telling you right out of the gate that you are. So be ready for that. There are a number of videos, tools, and sources on YouTube that step you through the installation of Windows Server so that you don't spin your wheels too much. Now that you've got Server running, it's running Active Directory, that's not enough. Now we need another machine to act as a user that will connect to Active Directory and be managed by Active Directory. But wait, where do you get a Windows license to be able to do that? Well, I think one of the best places you can go is the Microsoft Edge developer site, which is developer.microsoft.com/en-us/Microsoft-edge. Why do they do that? So I think what they really have, where you really should go, the way you get to this page is typing in modern.ie, M-O-D-E-R-N, the modern man, perfectly modern Millie, modern.ie. And it will redirect you to this Microsoft site. This is a Microsoft page. Under the Tools pull-down menu, there's an option for virtual machines, and Microsoft will give you Windows 7, Windows 8.1, and Windows 10 on a VM for free. Especially helpful if you're one of the folks studying for A+ right now. There's your 3 operating systems, Windows 7, Windows 8.1, Windows 10. So you can download Windows 10. All of these are full-blown versions of Windows. They are only licensed to be used in a lab environment. They cannot be used for production purposes. So this is perfectly legitimate. It falls under the terms of the end-user license agreement. You are not doing anything wrong. This is exactly what these are built for. So you can download a VM of Windows 10, run that in a separate virtual machine, and now your Windows 10 can join the Active Directory domain. And you can now do all of the things you would normally do with Active Directory and use that machine as your guinea pig. The URL is modern.ie. I think I can put links into the chat room. So that's what I'll do. There we go. Modern.ie. There's the link. So I will tell you, when you get this set up, you will have a problem with DNS. DNS is going to be a problem. Not because DNS is a problem, but because DNS has to be configured in a certain way in your VM so that you can find it with your Windows 10 machine and it can find the Active Directory. There's a whole thing you have to do. It's very simple to set up. It's not complicated, but it is a very specific set of configuration parameters that are required for that DNS config. But once you do that, you're good. Works great. Works like a champ. So that's why I mentioned that. Great place to go for free VMs. And as long as you follow their instructions and use it within the terms of the end-user license agreement, a completely legitimate way to set up a lab and use it. And now you have Active Directory in a VM with a separate machine. You can set up group policy. You can push that to the machine. You can log in with a user. Then you can set up another machine, log in with that user somewhere else, watch as all of the configurations synchronize between the two. It's fantastic. It's a great way to do it. I'm going to demonstrate this in the later set of videos on my A+ course because you have to do some Active Directory things in the new version of A+, because that's what everybody does. So that's what I would do. You've got some choices now. You can do it online. You could do it in Azure right now, or you can build your own locally, and you're good. That's what I would concentrate on. Will the downloads work with VMware? Yes, they have downloads that are available in many different platforms. In fact, if I choose on mine, let's do Windows 10. Windows 10 is available in VirtualBox, Vagrant, VMware, both Windows and Mac, Hyper-V, which is a Windows thing, and then Parallels, which is Mac only. That's the one I use. So when you choose that, it will start downloading. That's how difficult it is. It works like a champ. Works fantastic. I probably, and they give you information on here's the username, here's the password, so you can start up Windows and log in properly. But it's full-blown Windows. It's not restricted in any way. It only runs for 90 days, I think. But then you just download another one. So it's not like, You lose it after 90 days, just download another one. So obviously you wouldn't be using this as a primary system. You'd be violating the end user license agreement if you did. And it times out in 90 days anyway. So you can't authorize it. You can't turn it on. Can't use it as a real Windows. It's only meant to work in a lab. It works great. It runs like a champ. In fact, practically everything relating to Windows in anything you've ever seen in any of my videos is coming from one of these virtual machines. I do have some Windows versions I run that I've licensed. So I have a Windows 10 that's mine. I have a Windows 11 that's mine. But often I need to set up these temporary systems, like for Active Directories, perfect example. And I set up temporary systems just for that. And it works fantastic. That's what I would do. Other questions. I know we're way past time, but I'm hanging out. So we're doing it. We're just taking questions. So another question. I don't have CompTIA. I work as a tech support associate 4 months now. 15 months of schooling. Last 3 months of training got me my job. That's a perfectly reasonable path, by the way. Not everybody has a certification. Not everybody has formal training somewhere. Not everybody has a formal degree. These things aren't mutually exclusive, by the way, and they don't replace each other. If you're looking for a job, it would be great if you had a formal degree and industry certifications. But you don't necessarily need both. It helps if you have both. And neither of these take the place of the other. I've seen a lot of people tell me, oh, I'm in the middle of taking classes at a college. I think I'm just going to drop out of college and go get certifications. I have to tell them, no, don't do that. No, they don't replace each other. Certifications are not the same thing as a formal education. Formal educations are not the same thing as a certification. These are two very different things. So they work with each other. That's what that is. They're working with each other. I don't know. They're working with each other. They definitely feed off each other so that they make an even better impression when you go into that job. So that's it. Here's some breaking news in the chat room. Breaking news from Scotty, who says, I just finished my 1002 exam. I passed thanks to you. Again, I didn't take the exam, Scotty. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm glad you passed the exam. Now, if you passed 1002, does this now mean that you are A+ certified? That's what I want to know. Oh, yes. Scotty says, yeah, boy, finally certified. Scotty's finally certified, got his A+ certification. And as he says in the chat room, IE. He seemed excited about it. And I would be too. Congratulations on your new A+ certification. That is what you should do right there. Just go get it, knock it out, you're done. And now let me ask, since we're having this conversation with Scotty and getting his certification, what or when did you pass the first one? Was it a month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? When did you take the first one? When did you take the second one? Hopefully you studied them one at a time. I was watching or in the CompTIA subreddit, I think it was even yesterday, where somebody said, I took my Core 1 yesterday and I failed it, but I'm taking Core 2 tomorrow. So hopefully I'll do better on that one. And I thought, who told you to do it this way? There's your problem. Don't study for both and go take both of them at the same time. You're going to kill yourself. That never works out very well. You should study for one. You should do like Scotty did. Scotty studied for the first one and passed it on February 23rd. Then stopped all the stuff he was studying, then shifted gears over to the second exam and passed it today. That's how you do it. That's how you bring it home right there. Brandon says, I don't mess around. Brandon says, my 1001 and 1002, 2 weeks apart. And for some people in the industry, if you've already been in the industry forever, you've already been working with this technology forever, you can absolutely get away with that. I would, if I was going to take the exams, I would take one on one day and one on the next. But I've been working with this content for so long that I got it at this point. If you're somebody who's never done this, yeah, Brandon says, yeah, I've been in the industry for 2 years. So it was a cakewalk. I got it. That's perfectly reasonable. So when I say you shouldn't take them together, not talking about us, Brandon. Talk about most folks. I think it's a rarity that you would go out and get an A+. You already know all this stuff, but sometimes you have to. But I think for most people, and if you're planning to do this, you have no IT experience or very little, this is all new material for you, please only study for one exam at a time. Do not study for both exams at one time. Don't care which one you take first. Take one first. Take the second one first. Take the first one second. I don't care. You can do it in any order. But only study for one at a time. In fact, Mark in the chat room said same thing. That's how I did it. I took the first one, months later took the second one, passed them both. I think that is your highest chance for success, is doing it that way. Can you cram all of them together and take both exams on the same day? Physically, technically, yes, you can. Do you want to? No, you don't want to. I don't even think I would do that. I can't imagine sitting around the testing center all day trying to take on these exams. That's not what I want to do either. But you could. For some people it works, but I think your best chance for success is one at a time. I think it would be fine. After A+, what's the next recommended course? I don't know. What do you want to do with your life? What do employers in your area, what would they like you to have? You know, if you're in the DC area, you need to go get Security Plus. Probably. Most likely. If you're not in the DC area, maybe it's something different. Are all the employers in your area looking for 365 knowledge? Are they looking for AWS knowledge? Are they looking for Cisco knowledge? Are they looking for Network Plus, A+? What are they looking for? I don't know the answer. I don't have that answer. I have no ability to answer that question. I don't have the knowledge to answer that question for you. So that's why I think that's the way it kind of goes that direction. I think you need to decide what it is. I have a video, and it's in the YouTube video description on this study group. It's on every study group now, which is how do you get a job in IT with no experience? And I step through 4 different elements that you should take into account. You need a formal education. You need industry certifications. You need some practical knowledge, some actual practical experience in using these technologies. That doesn't necessarily mean professional experience, but practical experience. And the last one is you need to know someone who works there. That's 4 things. There's 4 elements. Those are the things I tell you really fit the best. That's the 4 things you need to maximize your chance of getting that job. So the second one, which was you need some industry certifications, what are people wanting you to have? If you ask me what you should do next, that's my question. You should do whatever they say you should have. That's what I would recommend you do. Because if you're in the DC area, almost every job says you should have Security Plus. If you're in Dallas, I bet all the jobs in Dallas do not say that. Some might, but it's not going to be the same percentage. It's not going to be the vast majority like you have in DC. It's just different depending on where you are. So I can't answer the question. I don't know the answer. I have no ability to answer that question. You're the only one who does. And you're going to have to do a little bit of legwork. I'm giving you homework. I know that's not what you want. But when you ask me that question, I go, time for you to do some homework. Go look at every job in your area that you would feel that you would be applicable for. See what they ask for. That's what you should go get. So that's why I say that. Other questions. How do you deal with imposter syndrome? I fake it till I make it. This is something that is completely normal. How you deal with imposter syndrome is you embrace it. There should never be a time in your IT career where you know everything that's being thrown at you. If you are in a job where you know everything that people are asking of you, then you are in the wrong job. That doesn't sound right. Every other job anywhere else, you would be the expert, and you would be the one that they would hold up as this person knows everything there is to know about what we do here. But in IT, it is impossible for you to know everything about everything. We just looked through a portion. We went through A through C of the Amazon Web Services directory, and I didn't know. I recognized 2 or 3 of those things. And certainly I'm in no way any expert on the AWS side. So that's a really good example. What if I got a job today where they were mostly AWS and they said, well, you're going to be responsible for our Amazon Glacier project. Okay. Amazon Glacier is a long-term storage facility at Amazon. You can upload very large files and they store them relatively cheaply compared to real-time access. But the only way you can get those files back is to put in a request that then takes hours to get those files sent back to you. So it's not a real-time system, but it costs less, like a backup, like a glacier. They freeze it in the glacier, and hopefully we'll never have to get access to those, but I need it backed up, and that's where they sit, and they're relatively inexpensive. So what if I go somewhere and they say, you're going to be our glacier expert? This happens all the time, by the way. This is a normal day in the life of someone in IT. You go to a meeting, it's 9 o'clock, you just got here, you got your coffee, I'm in the meeting. They say, all right, we're going to start our Glacier project. James, you're going to be heading the Glacier project. Huh? Oh, I've never used Glacier, but okay, we'll do that. You should embrace it. You are constantly throughout your career, no matter how high you go in your career, no matter how far you move up the ladder in your career, no matter how far you get, there will always be things you're not familiar with. There will always be things you don't know. Always. The process of working in IT is one of constant studying, constant Googling, constant white paper reading, constant labbing. It's just constant. It never ends because you will never know everything you need to know. And if you do know everything you need to know, as I mentioned, you need to go get another job because you're not getting paid enough. You should have leveled up and gone to a job where you don't know anything anymore. If you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. Go to a room where you're the dumbest one in the room. And by the way, embrace it. Almost everyone you work with, I come from most of my career has been in systems engineering, working for a company that manufactures or develops software and hardware. So I am in a position where I know how they train. These large companies, you go to a Cisco, a Microsoft, an Amazon, or anywhere else, and you work for them as a technical engineer, they will send you to training. In fact, most of the places I work, we would have training where we would all fly somewhere and sit in a room for a week, learning all kinds of things about our technologies. That would happen like once or twice a year. And then every quarter, we would have more of a localized training. So a lot of your time was spent, at least a week out of every quarter, you were training. And you were going in a room and you're learning from the people that wrote it. They bring in the developers that wrote the product. They bring in the product managers that design the specifications for this product, and they teach you how this product should be deployed. They teach you about where it fits best in people's environments. They teach you about what's good about it, what's bad about it, and how you should position it and install it. Those are extensive trainings. But before you walk in the room, you know nothing about any of these things, and they don't expect you to. Of course you know nothing. We haven't trained you yet. So that's why I tell people, don't worry about imposter syndrome. You should embrace it. That's normal. Now, you should, of course, be working on that. Learn as much as you can about the things you know and where they are. And then once you get that piece done, now you level up again. You go to the next job where you know nothing. So that should be a constant cycle for you. Always be pushing yourself. And never, I mentioned this in other study groups before, you should always be the one who is willing to tell people, I have no idea what you're talking about. I do not know the answer to that question, which we're sort of programmed not to do for some reason. But I would highly recommend you be the first one to quickly tell people, I don't know what you're talking about. I mentioned this trainings that I would go to. You get a developer up there and they start going at it with here's the logic we use to build the automaton that finds the applications that's able to, and they put all this stuff on this board. And I'm like, hold up, brother. You lost me right there. Like the third line down. Could you back up? and say it in a way that my childlike brain could figure out. And everybody kind of laughs over that, like, ah, ha, ha. And then he goes, no problem. And he goes through it again, like, oh, okay, now I got it. But I got to tell you, as soon as we walk out of the room, people will come up to me and say, I am so glad you asked about that. I had no idea what he was saying. That's just normal humans. That is how we do it. But I'm more than happy to be the dumb one in the room. I'll sit in the front. I'll raise my hand. I'll say, I don't know what you're talking about, just so I know. And I figure if I'm the one who doesn't know and we're going through this, and I can at least start having a conversation with someone about learning what I don't know yet, that other people can follow along with that. So I think that's kind of normal to work through those. I like learning things. I like solving problems. I like big problems. I like broad strategic problems where you need to put in some type of solution that solves a number of different issues. And I like solving highly technical, detailed, single point issues. So I don't care where the problems are coming from. I like them all. Just bring them all in. And if I don't know the answer, I have lots of people that I work with who are smarter than I am about different topics. So if it's a BGP problem, I know somebody on speed dial who's a BGP expert. I'm going to call him. If I have someone who is an SNMP, a SIM expert, I'll call my SIM expert. He'll tell me what he used to be able to do this. So I have all these things that I use to improve my own knowledge, but I also have connections. I network with other people. I have a list of a bunch of people out there. I'm knocking my coffee over. A list of other people. This is my coffee, by the way. That's why it's in this next to my computer. So don't put coffee next to your computer unless it's in a Contigo. And then you're fine. What I tend to do is surround myself with a bunch of people who are really smart in different places. And then if I need to learn more about that, we do a Wonder Twin power. We figure, I give them a call, like, here's my issue. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here's what I think should work. What does that sound like to you? And they go, yeah, that should work, or no, it shouldn't, or set it up like this, or put it in a lab, or monitor these specifications, have a look at these debugs. That's what we kind of focus on. So I think that's a good way to go about doing it. And if you're somebody who is, you're worried about it, you're worried what other people think of you, you're worried that people are going to think you're dumb, that you're worried that they're going to be concerned that you're asking too many questions, that has never happened to me. If anything, it's the opposite. You're the one who's curious. That's my Ted Lasso thing of the day. Be curious. Be the one asking the questions. Be the one trying to decipher what people are telling you. Because if you have questions about it, other people are going to have questions too. Barbecue sauce. So that is where we are today. I think that's a pretty good place to lock it in for today's study group. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for joining us on the live stream. Thank you for your time in the first hour answering the questions. Thank you for your questions in the after show. It's always interesting. It's never dull. It's always exciting. We love doing these events. We love putting these together and having us all talk to each other. It's never over. I'm always on Discord in some way, shape, or form. We'd love to have you join our Discord server. You're welcome to DM me there. It won't get me angry. It doesn't bother me. You're welcome to, if you have a question, you need something, that's why I'm there. Follow us, ProfessorMesser.com/Discord. Come on back next month. We'll do more of these. We got A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus coming in June for those study groups. We're just going to keep this going until you're just sick and tired of me, which I hope is a long time from now. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next time on the Security Plus Study Group. Thanks, everybody.